Welcome to this hearing on protecting kids on social media. I want to thank the ranking member, Senator Blackburn, who has been a very, very close partner in this work, as well as Chairman Cantwell and Ranking Member Wicker for their support. We're joined by Senator Thune and Senator Amy Klobuchar and Senator Ed Markey. They've all been extraordinary leaders in this effort. And today, I should note, is the first time that TikTok and Snap have appeared before Congress. I appreciate you and YouTube for your testimony this morning. It means a lot. Our hearing with the Facebook whistleblower, Frances Haugen, was a searing indictment, along with her documents, of a powerful, gigantic corporation that puts profits ahead of people, especially our children. There has been a deafening drumbeat of continuing disclosures about Facebook. They have deepened America's concerns and outrage and have led to increasing calls for accountability. And there will be accountability. This time is different. Accountability to parents and the public, accountability to Congress, accountability to investors and shareholders, and accountability to the Securities and Exchange Commission and other federal agencies, because there is ample, credible evidence to start an investigation there. But today we are concerned about continuing to educate the American public and ourselves about how we can face this crisis. What we learned from Ms. Haugen's disclosures and reporting since then is absolutely repugnant and abhorrent about Instagram's algorithms creating a perfect storm, in the words of one of Facebook's own researchers. As that person said, it exacerbates downward spirals, harmful to teens, it fuels hate and violence, it prioritizes profits over the people that it hurts. In effect, the algorithms push emotional and provocative content, toxic content that amplifies depression, anger, hate, anxiety, because those emotions attract and hook kids and others to their platforms. In effect, the more content and more extreme versions of it are pushed to children who express an interest in online bullying, eating disorders, self-harm, even suicide. And that's why we now have a drumbeat of demands for accountability, along with the drumbeats of disclosure. But we're hearing the same stories and reports of the same harms about the tech platforms that are represented here today. I've heard from countless parents and medical professionals in Connecticut and elsewhere around the country about the same phenomenon on Snapchat, YouTube, and TikTok. In effect, that business model is the same. More eyeballs means more dollars. Everything that you do is to add users, especially kids, and keep them on your apps for longer. I understand from your testimony that your defense is we're not Facebook. We're different, and we're different from each other. Being different from Facebook is not a defense. That bar is in the gutter. It's not a defense to say that you are different. What we want is not a race to the bottom, but really a race to the top. So we'll want to know from you what specific steps you're taking that protect children, even if it means foregoing profits. We're going to want to know what research you've done, similar to the studies and data that have been disclosed about Facebook. And we're going to want to know whether you will support real reforms, not just the tweaks and the minor changes that you suggested and recounted in your testimony. The picture that we've seen from an endless stream of videos that is automatically selected by sophisticated algorithms shows that you too drive and strive to find something that teens will like and then drive more of it to them. If you learn that a teen feels insecure about his or her body, it's a recipe for disaster because you start out on dieting tips, but the algorithm will raise the temperature, it will flood that individual with more and more extreme messages, and after a while, all of the videos are about eating disorders. It's the same rabbit hole, driving kids down those rabbit holes created by algorithms that leads to dark places and encourages more destructive hate and violence. We've done some listening. I heard from Nora in Westport, who allowed her 11-year-old daughter, Avery, on TikTok because she thought it was just girls dancing. Avery wanted to exercise more with the shutdown of school and sports, so like most people, she went online. Nora told me about the rabbit hole that TikTok and YouTube's algorithms pulled her daughter into. She began to see ever more extreme videos about weight loss. Avery started exercising compulsively and ate only one meal a day. Her body weight dropped dangerously low, and she was diagnosed with anorexia. Avery is now luckily in treatment, but the financial cost of care is an extreme burden, and her education has suffered. We heard from parents who had the same experience. So we not only listened, but we checked ourselves. On YouTube, my office created an account as a teenager. Like Avery, we watched a few videos about extreme dieting and eating disorders. They were easy to find. YouTube's recommendation algorithm began to promote extreme dieting and eating disorder videos each time we opened the app. These were often videos about teens starving themselves, as you can see from this poster. The red is eating disorder-related content. The green is all the other videos. One is before and the other is after the algorithm kicked in. You can see the difference. We also received these recommendations each time we watched other videos. It's mostly eating disorder content. There was no way out of this rabbit hole. Another parent in Connecticut wrote to me about how their son was fed a constant stream of videos on TikTok related to disordered eating and calorie counting after looking up athletic training. As scientific research has shown, eating disorders and body comparison also significantly affect young men on social media. Young men often feel compelled to bulk up, to look a certain way. Again, I heard about this pressure all too often. We created an account on TikTok. Troublingly, it was easy searching TikTok to go from men's fitness to steroid use. It took us only 1 minute to find TikTok accounts openly promoting and selling illegal steroids. We all know the dangers of steroids, and they are illegal. All of this research and facts and disclosures send a message to America's parents. You cannot trust big tech with your kids. Parents of America cannot trust these apps with their children. And big tech cannot say to parents, you must be the gatekeepers. You must be the social media co-pilots. You must be the app police, because parents should not have to bear that burden alone. We need stronger rules to protect children online, real transparency, real accountability. I want a market where the competition is to protect children, not to exploit them, not a race to the bottom, but competition for the top. We have said that this moment is for big tech, a big tobacco moment. And I think there's a lot of truth to that contention because it is a moment of reckoning. The fact is that, like big tobacco, big tech has lured teens despite knowing its products can be harmful. It sought to associate itself with celebrities, fashion, and beauty, everything that appeals to young audiences. And like big tobacco, Facebook hid from parents and the public the substantial evidence that Instagram could have a negative effect on teen health. But the products are different. Big tech is not irredeemably bad like big tobacco. Big tobacco and the tobacco products, when used by the customer as the way the manufacturer intended, actually kill the customer. As Ms. Haugen said, our goal is not to burn Facebook to the ground. It's to bring out the best, to improve it, to impose accountability. As she said, we can have social media we enjoy that connects us without tearing apart our democracy, putting our children in danger, and sowing ethnic violence around the world. We can do better, and I agree. Thank you, and we'll turn now to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. We do appreciate this. And Mr. Chairman, I thank your staff for the good work that they have done working to facilitate these hearings on holding big tech accountable. We appreciate that. And today's conversation is something that is much needed, and it is long overdue. For too long, we have allowed platforms to promote and glorify dangerous content for its kid and teen users. In the weeks leading up to this hearing, I've heard from parents, from teachers, from mental health professionals who are all wondering the same thing. How long are we going to let this continue? And what will it take for platforms to finally crack down on the viral challenges, the illicit drugs, the eating disorder content, and the child sexual abuse material? We find this on your platforms, and teachers and parents and mental health physicians cannot figure out why you allow this to happen. It seems like every day that I hear stories about kids and teens who are suffering after interacting with TikTok, YouTube, and Snapchat. Kids as young as 9 have died doing viral challenges on TikTok. And we've seen teen girls lured into inappropriate sexual relationships with predators on Snapchat. Your parents, how can you allow this? How can you allow this? I've learned about kids and teens who commit suicide due to bullying that they've suffered on these sites and the platform's refusal to work with law enforcement and families to stop the harassment when asked. If it were your child, what would you do to protect your child? Does it matter to you? My staff has viewed abusive content featuring minors and videos of people slitting their wrist on YouTube. It's there. Yet all the while, kids and teens are flocking to these sites in increasing numbers, and the platforms love it, as they know that youth are a captive audience, one which will continue consuming the content that is fed to them through these algorithms, even if it puts them in danger. They're curious. They get pulled down the rabbit hole. They continue to watch. And these platforms are getting more and more data about our children. But do we know what they're doing with that data? In the case of Facebook, we learned that they're using it to sell their products to younger and younger children, those who cannot legally use their services. But these platforms, you all know you have children on these platforms that are too young to be on these platforms, and you allow it to continue because it's money. It's money in the bank. It is money in your paycheck. And obviously, money trumps everything. And with some of our witnesses today, we have real reason to question how they are collecting and using the data that they get from American children and teens. I've made no secret about my concerns that TikTok, which is owned by Beijing-owned ByteDance, is paving the way for the Chinese government to gain unfettered access to our children and teens. And TikTok, despite vague assurances that they, and I'm quoting, store data outside of China, end quote, has not alleviated my concerns in the slightest. In fact, earlier this year, they changed their privacy policy to allow themselves to collect even more data on Americans. Now they want your face prints and voice prints in addition to your geolocation data and your keystroke patterns and rhythms. They also collect audio that comes from devices connected to your smartphone, like smart speakers. They collect face and body attributes from videos, as well as the objects and the scenery that appear in those videos. This makes sense to some degree to create videos, but given China's propensities to surveil its own citizens, why should we trust that TikTok, through ByteDance, isn't doing the same to us? Most Americans have no idea this is happening. And while they hope on the face of things to reassure us by creating U.S.-based offices for their high-priced lobbyists and marketing personnel, it just is not enough. We see through it all, as we will get into today. TikTok's own privacy policies give them an out to share data with ByteDance and the Chinese Communist Party. Yet most Americans have absolutely no idea that the Chinese Communist Party is getting their information. The time has come where we must focus on what Congress can do to secure American consumers' personal data. As a mother and a grandmother, I know this is doubly important when it comes to our children. As this hearing will show, we can't afford to wait on that, so thank you to the witnesses. We look forward to your cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn. We have with us this morning Ms. Jennifer Stout, Vice President of Global Public Policy at Snapchat. Ms. Stout is the Vice President of Global Policy, and prior to Snapchat, she spent most of her career in government working for then Senator Joe Biden and at the United States Department of State. Mr. Michael Beckerman is Vice President and Head of Public Policy at Americas at TikTok. He joined TikTok in February of 2020 and leads their government relations. He was previously the founding president and CEO of the Internet Association. We're joined by Ms. Leslie Miller, remotely Vice President, Government Affairs and Public Policy at YouTube. Ms. Miller leads YouTube's public policy team. Previously, she served as acting head of global policy for Google. Why don't we begin with your testimony, Ms. Stout? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blackburn, and members of the subcommittee, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Jennifer Stout, and I am the Vice President of Global Public Policy at Snap. I've been in this role for nearly 5 years after spending almost 2 decades in public service, more than half in Congress. I have tremendous respect for this institution and the work that you are doing to ensure that young people are having safe and healthy online experiences. To understand Snap's approach to protecting young people on our platform, it is helpful to start at the beginning. Snapchat's founders were part of the first generation to grow up with social media. Like many of their peers, they saw that while social media was capable of making a positive impact, it also had certain features that troubled them. These platforms encouraged people to broadcast their thoughts permanently. Young people were constantly measuring themselves by likes and by comments, trying to present a perfect version of themselves because of social pressures and judgment. Social media also evolved to feature an endless feed of unvetted content, exposing individuals to a flood of viral, misleading, and harmful information. Snapchat is different. Snapchat was built as an antidote to social media. From the start, there were 3 key ways we prioritized privacy and safety. First, we decided to have Snapchat open to a camera instead of a feed of content. This created a blank canvas for friends to visually communicate with each other in a way that was more immersive than text. Second, we embraced strong privacy principles and the idea of ephemerality, making images delete by default. Social media may have normalized having a permanent record of conversations online, but in real life, friends don't break out their tape recorder to document every conversation. Third, we focused on connecting people who were already friends in real life by requiring that both Snapchatters opt in to being friends in order to communicate. Because in real life, friendships are mutual. We have worked hard to keep evolving responsibly. Understanding the potential negative effects of social media, we made proactive choices to ensure that all of our future products reflected those early values. We were influenced by existing regulatory frameworks that govern broadcast and telecommunications when developing the parts of our app where users had the potential to reach a large audience. Discover, which is our closed content platform and features content from professional media publishers and verified users, and Spotlight, where creators can submit creative and entertaining videos to share, are both structured in a way that does not allow unvetted content to get reach. Our design protects our audience and makes us different. When it comes to young people, we've made intentional choices to apply additional protections to keep them safe. We've adopted responsible design principles and rigorous processes that consider the privacy and safety of new features right from the beginning. We take into account the unique sensitivities of young people. We intentionally make it harder for strangers to find minors by not allowing public profiles for users under 18. We have long deployed age-gating tools to prevent minors from viewing age-regulated content and ads. We make no effort and have no plans to market to young children. Individuals under the age of 13 are not permitted to create Snapchat accounts, and if we find them, we remove them. Additionally, we are developing new tools that will give parents more oversight over how their teens are using Snapchat. Protecting the well-being of our community is something we approach with both humility and determination. Over 500 million people around the world use Snapchat, and 95% of our community says that Snapchat makes them feel happy because it connects them to their friends. We have a moral responsibility to take into account the best interests of our users in everything we do, and we understand that there is more work to be done. As we look to the future, we believe that regulation is necessary, but given the different speeds at which technology develops and the rate at which regulation can be implemented, regulation alone can't get the job done. Technology companies must take responsibility to protect the communities they serve. If they don't, government must act to hold them accountable. We fully support the subcommittee's approach and efforts to investigate these issues, and we welcome a collaborative approach to problem solving that keeps our young people safe online. Thank you again for the opportunity to appear today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Ms. Stout. Mr. Beckerman.
Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blackburn, and members of the subcommittee, My name is Michael Beckerman. I'm the Vice President of Public Policy for the Americas at TikTok. I'm also the father of 2 young daughters. I'm passionate about ensuring that our children stay safe online. I joined TikTok after nearly a decade representing the internet industry at large because I saw an opportunity to help TikTok responsibly grow from a young startup to a trusted entertainment platform. TikTok is not a social network based on followers or a social graph. It's not an app that people check to see what their friends are doing. You watch TikToks, you create on TikTok. The passion and creativity and diversity of our community has fueled new cultural trends, chart-topping artists, and businesses across the country. It has been a bright spot for American families who create videos together. And I've heard from countless friends and family, and even members of the Senate and your staff, about how joyful and fun and entertaining and authentic TikTok content truly is. And I'm proud of the hard work that our safety teams do every single day to safeguard our community, and that our leadership makes safety and wellness a priority, particularly to protect teens on the platform. Being open and humble is important to the way we operate at TikTok. In the context of the hearing today, that means we seek out feedback from experts and stakeholders to constantly improve. When we find areas or find flaws where we can do better, we hold ourselves accountable and we find solutions. Turning a blind eye to areas where we can improve is not part of our company's DNA. But most importantly, we strive to do the right thing, protecting people on the platform. When it comes to protecting minors, we work to create age-appropriate experiences for teens throughout their development. We have proactively built privacy and safety protections with this in mind. For example, people under 16 have their accounts set to private automatically. They can't host live streams, and they can't send direct messages on our platform. And we don't allow anyone to send off-platform videos, images, or links via direct messaging. These are perhaps underappreciated product choices that go a long way to protect teens. And we made these decisions, which are counter to industry norms or our own short-term growth interests, because we're committed to do what's right in building for the long term. We support parents in their important role to protect teens. That's why we've built parental controls called family pairing that empower a parent to link their TikTok account in a simple way from their own device as the parent to their teenager's account to enable a range of privacy and safety controls. And I encourage all the parents that are listening to the hearing today to take an active role in your teen's phone and app use. And if they're on TikTok, please check out family pairing. Visit our youth portal, read through our Guardian's Guide that's on our Safety Center. Our tools for parents are industry-leading, innovative, but we're always looking to add and improve. It's important to know that our work is not done in a vacuum. It's critical for platforms, experts, and governments to collaborate on solutions that protect the safety and well-being of teens. That's why we partner with Common Sense Networks, who helps us ensure that we provide age-appropriate content in our under 13 app experience. We also work closely with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the National Parent-Teacher Association, the Digital Wellness Lab at Boston Children's Hospital, and our U.S. Content Advisory Council. TikTok has made tremendous strides to promote the safety and well-being of teens, but we also acknowledge and we are transparent about the room that we have to grow and improve. For example, we're investing in new ways for our community to enjoy content based on age appropriateness or family comfort. And we're developing more features that empower people to shape and customize their experience in the app. But there is no finish line when it comes to protecting children and teens. The challenges are complex, but we are determined to work hard and keep the platform safe and create age-appropriate experiences. We do know trust must be earned, and we're seeking to earn trust through a higher level of action, transparency, and accountability, as well as the humility to learn and improve. Thank you for your leadership on these important issues. I look forward to answering the questions of the committee.
Thanks, Mr. Beckerman. Ms. Miller, I hope you're with us. Please proceed.
Sorry, I think I'm having a bit of technical difficulty. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, and now we can see you. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blackburn, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Leslie Miller, and I'm the Vice President of Public Policy at YouTube. As young people spend more time online, and given their changing needs as they grow up, it's crucial to put in place protections that allow them age-appropriate access to information. We do this by investing in the partnerships, technologies, and policies that create safer environments that allow children to express their imagination and curiosity and empower families to create the right experiences for their children. Our internal teams include experts who come from child development, child psychology, and children's media backgrounds. They work closely with the product teams to ensure that product design reflects an understanding of children's unique needs and abilities and how they evolve over time. The advice from trusted experts informs our ongoing improvements for YouTube Kids and our child safety policies. Our child safety specific policies, which I describe in greater detail in my submitted testimony, prohibit content that exploits or endangers minors on YouTube. Using a combination of machine learning and human reviewers across the globe, we commit significant time and resources to removing this harmful content as quickly as possible. Between April and June of this year, we removed nearly 1.8 million videos for violations of our child safety policies, of which about 85% were removed before they had 10 views. We are constantly working to improve our safeguards. We have also invested significant resources to empower parents with greater control over how their children view content on YouTube. In 2015, we created YouTube Kids as a way for kids to more safely pursue their curiosity and explore their interests while providing parents more tools to control and customize the experience for their families. Videos on YouTube Kids include popular children's videos, diverse new content, and content from trusted partners. After we launched YouTube Kids, we heard from parents that tweens have different needs, which weren't being fully met by our products. That is why we've worked with parents and experts across the globe in areas related to child safety, child development, and digital literacy to develop a solution for these parents, which we called supervised experiences. We launched this earlier this year on the main YouTube platform. Parents now have the option of choosing between 3 different content choices: content generally suitable for viewers aged 9+ or 13+, and then most of YouTube. The most of YouTube option excludes all age-restricted content on the main platform. We want to give parents the controls that allow them to make the right choices for their children. On YouTube Kids, and even on YouTube for all under 18 users, autoplay is off by default. In the coming months, we'll be launching additional parental controls in the YouTube Kids app, including the ability for a parent to choose a locked default autoplay setting. Our take a break reminders and bedtime settings are also on by default in these experiences. YouTube treats personal information from anyone watching children's content on the platform as coming from a child, regardless of the age of the user. This means that on videos classified as made for kids, we limit data collection and use, and as a result, we restrict or disable some product features. For example, we do not serve personalized ads on this content on our main YouTube platform, and we do not support features such as comments or live chat. And to be clear, we have never allowed personalized advertising on YouTube Kids or YouTube supervised experiences. There is no issue more important than the safety and well-being of our kids online, and we are committed to working closely with you to address these challenges. I again would like to thank you for the opportunity to appear today and look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Ms. Miller. We're going to do 5-minute rounds. We have votes at 11 o'clock. We have 3 votes, but I think we'll be able to juggle the questioning and the testimony, and if necessary, we'll take a short recess. Let me begin. As you know by now, in August, Senator Blackburn and I wrote to Facebook asking whether they had done any research, whether they had any facts that showed harm to children. And in fact, they denied it. They dodged the question. They disclaimed that Instagram is harmful to teens. Let me ask you, and I think it's pretty much a yes or no question, the same question that we asked Facebook. Have any of your companies conducted research on whether your apps can have a negative effect on children's or teens' mental health or well-being, and whether your apps promote addiction-like use? Have you done that research? Ms. Stout?
Senator, we have conducted research. Much of our research is focused on our products and how we can improve our products and services to really meet the needs of our users and our community. And as I mentioned in my opening testimony, some of the research that we did shows that 95% of users say that Snapchat makes them happy.
Will you make that research available to the subcommittee?
Yes, Senator, we would.
Mr. Beckerman?
Senator, thank you for the question. We believe that research should be done in a transparent way. And for us, we partner with external experts and stakeholders to get their feedback. And we think that this is something that everybody can work together on. And additionally, we've actually supported passage of the CAMERA Act, which would have additional funding at NIH, and we'd love to see this done in an external way, in a transparent way.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, Senator, we work with experts to leverage their insights and research to make sure that our product and policy decisions are up to date based on their insights.
Now, I've asked whether the research has been done that could show negative effects or addictive-like impacts. You've all indicated that you've done that research, and Ms. Stout has indicated that her company will make it available. I'm assuming, Mr. Beckerman, your company will? You're nodding. And Ms. Miller?
Yes, Senator, we have published some research, and we would make additional available.
Let me ask now about the black box algorithms. As you know, these algorithms exist. They function to drive sometimes toxic content at kids, more of it and more extreme versions of it. The consequences are potentially catastrophic, but the companies are, in effect, grading their own homework. They're evaluating their own effects on kids when it comes to addiction and harms. Let me ask you a similar question. Do you provide external independent researchers with access to your algorithms, data sets, and data privacy practices? In other words, if an academic researcher comes to you on child psychology and wants to determine whether one of your products causes teen mental health issues or addiction, could they get access to raw data from you without interference? Ms. Stout?
So, Senator, I think it's important to remember that on Snapchat, algorithms work very differently. Very little of our content is sorted algorithmically.
Well, so, I'm going to apologize because I'm going to interrupt just to say the question is about access to independent researchers on those algorithms that you do use. And there's no question that you have algorithms, correct?
Correct, Senator. We do have algorithms, but they just operate very differently. To your question on whether we've had any requests for outside researchers or mental health specialists to come and access that, to my knowledge, we have not, Senator.
But you would provide access to them?
Yes, I think it's important to understand that algorithms for us just operate differently. So it's to compare them against different platforms, which would mean very different things.
That's one of the facts that an independent or external researcher would verify, whether
Indeed.
They are different and how they're different if they are. Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator. We believe that transparency for the algorithm is incredibly important. We were one of the first companies to publish publicly a deep dive in how our algorithm works. We've also opened transparency and accountability centers where you invite outside experts and invite you, Senator, and your staff to come in and see exactly how the algorithm works. Additionally, it's important to give additional choice to people. And in your feed, for example, on TikTok, if you're not interested, you can indicate that, and we're adding additional tools to give choice and transparency to individuals as they're using TikTok.
So external access, okay.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Miller.
Senator, we're very transparent as it relates to the way in which our machine learning works. For example, of our quarterly transparency report that summarizes the videos and channels that we removed based on violating our community guidelines. Earlier this year, we rolled out an additional statistic called the violative view rate.
Well, again,
which,
Ms. Miller, I really apologize for interrupting. The question is whether you provide external independent researchers with access to your algorithms and data sets and data privacy protection. You allow external
we
independent
regularly,
researchers.
I'm sorry, Senator.
Do you provide that access?
We regularly partner with experts, for example, in child development, mental health, to
But
work
they
closely
are experts
with them.
chosen by you. If somebody independent came to you and wanted that access, yes or no, would you permit it?
Senator, it would depend on the details, but we are always looking to partner with experts in these important fields.
Well, I'm going to cite the difference between your response and Mr. Beckerman's and Ms. Stout's, which indicates certainly a strong hesitancy, if not resistance, to providing access. Let me ask you, Ms. Miller, I think one of the issues here really relates to the claim that these sites are transparent and truthful, which is belied by our actual experience, and the fact that they favor regulation. In the case of Facebook, they have mounted armies of lawyers, paid millions of dollars to fight regulation, whether it's the Earn It Act and other responsible reforms to Section 230, or privacy legislation, or requirements to be more transparent on algorithms. According to the details made public last week, in a multi-state antitrust case, Google has, quote, sought a coordinated effort to forestall and diminish child privacy protections in proposed regulations by the FTC and legislation. That filing described attempts to encourage Facebook and Microsoft to fight privacy rules and back down on advocacy for legislation, in particular meeting where that exchange occurred. This disclosure made news, but everybody in DC really knew it was true. What was new is that Google's hypocrisy was finally called out. The fact is that Google and YouTube have been fighting against privacy behind the scenes for years. It's hidden in plain sight. It's an open secret. You've been lobbying the FTC to weaken our existing privacy rule. You spent vast sums of money fighting California's privacy rules. I want to ask you, Ms. Miller, what work has YouTube done to lobby against Congress strengthening online protections for children, and is that report and that claim by the multi-state plaintiffs accurate?
Senator, I understand that the material that you're referencing was regarding our point of view on e-privacy legislation in Europe. Our CEO, Sundar Pichai, has regularly called for comprehensive privacy legislation in the U.S. And on behalf of YouTube, I am not aware of any efforts other than to be involved in conversations in a multi-stakeholder way as it relates to any legislation or bills that are being introduced regarding the oversight or regulation of companies such as YouTube.
So you're saying that these reports about political pressure and lobbying against children's privacy and safeguards are just totally false?
I think we work with lawmakers such as yourself regularly to have conversations to share what we are doing on the platform, the updated protections we are putting in place, but also to hear your concerns and to work with you as you contemplate new regulations.
Will you commit that you'll support privacy legislation as has been proposed?
Senator, I'm not steeply involved in the details of any specific privacy legislation, but I commit that we will work with you and partner with you on federal privacy legislation.
Would you support a ban on targeted advertising to children and young teens?
Senator, at YouTube, we prohibit personalized advertising in YouTube Kids, as
So
well
you
as
would-
in
you would
supervised
support a ban.
experiences.
Would you support a ban in law?
We have not waited for laws in order to put those types of protections in place.
Well, I hope that you will and that you'll be perhaps more forthcoming in the next round of questioning. I'll turn to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beckerman, I want to come to you first. In the past, TikTok has said that it has never, nor would it ever, share and provide user data to the Chinese government, even if asked. Yet your privacy policy says you can disclose data collected to respond to government inquiries. It also says you share data you collect with your parent companies and affiliates, and that you transmit user information to servers and data centers overseas. And earlier this year, the Chinese Communist Party acquired an ownership stake and a seat on the board of ByteDance. So does TikTok share user data with its parent company, ByteDance?
Thank you, Senator. This is an important question, and I'm glad you're asking. TikTok does not...
Quickly.
Excuse me?
Quickly, please.
Yes, Senator. We do not share information with the Chinese government, and I would like to point you to a Citizen Lab report, which is one of the most well-respected global national security experts, where they said, our research shows that there's no overt data transmission to the Chinese government, and our testing, TikTok did not contact any servers within China. And then the report goes on to state, Senator,
Then let me
that
ask
TikTok
you-
does not pose a threat to national security, and I'd be happy to submit that report
Okay, let me
for the
ask you,
record.
please submit the report for the record. Do any ByteDance employees have access to TikTok user data or any role in creating their algorithm?
Senator, U.S. user data is stored in the United States. Our backups are in Singapore, and we have a world-renowned U.S.-based security team that handles access to user data.
I understand that you say you store it in Singapore. Tell me about programmers, product developers, and the data teams. Are they housed in China?
Senator, like many technology companies, we have engineers in the United States and throughout and around the world.
And so they have access to algorithms and data.
Senator, we have engineers in the United States, and we also have engineers.
So that answer is yes. What about Douyin? ByteDance says they are fully separate, but do Douyin employees have any access to TikTok user data or input into the algorithm?
Senator, that's a completely different app from TikTok. And
No, it's a related company. You might want to check that. If the Chinese Communist Party asks you for U.S. user data, what is to stop you from providing it, since they have a seat on the board of ByteDance and they have a financial stake in the company?
Senator, that's not accurate. One, they do not have a stake in TikTok at all.
Oh, yes, they do. It happened in August.
Senator, that's not accurate.
That is ByteDance, and we can clarify that for the record. But the record is that the Chinese Communist Party acquired a stake in ByteDance in August, and they now have a seat on the board. So let's talk about TikTok's privacy policy. It says you collect and keep a wide variety of information, including biometric data such as face prints, voice prints, geolocation information, browsing and search history, not just on TikTok, but on other apps, and keystroke patterns and rhythms. Why do you need all of this personal data, especially on our children, which seems to be more than any other platform collects?
Senator, many outside researchers and experts that look at this have pointed out that TikTok actually collects less data than many of our peers. And on the keystroke issue...
Outside researchers that you're paying for?
No, Senator.
You would submit that to independent outside researchers, because what we're seeing with all of this biometric data and the keystroke patterns, that you are exceeding that. So what do you do with this? Are you creating a virtual you of the children that are on your site?
Senator, I don't know what you mean by virtual you.
Well, a virtual you is you and your presence online. It's like a virtual dossier. I'm sure you understand that term. And what do you need with all of this information? Do you track children's viewing patterns? Are you building a replication of where they go, their search history, their voice, their biometrics? And why does TikTok and ByteDance and Douyin need that information on our children?
Senator, TikTok is an entertainment platform where people watch and enjoy and create short-form videos. It's about uplifting and entertaining content. People love it. And I disagree with the characterization of the way.
That is it from the positive. But there's also a negative. And the negative is that you are building a profile, a virtual you, of our children because of the data that you're collecting. You mentioned the family parent provision that you have. So when you have a parent that goes on that, are they opening their data to TikTok? And is TikTok following them or following and capturing their search history? See, Mr. Beckerman, when you capture all of this data and you hold all of this data, then you are invading the property, the privacy of individuals that are on your site. And that applies to you, to Ms. Stout, to Ms. Miller, because you say because you are using the platform, we can do this. But in essence, what you're doing is making our children and their data, you're making that the product because you turn around and you sell it. And then basically it becomes weaponized against their users. Mr. Chairman, I'm over time. I have several questions for Ms. Stout, Ms. Miller, and we'll do those in a second round.
We'll have a second round. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you to both of you. Reports indicate that nearly half of kids 9 to 12 and a third of kids age 7 to 9 use social media on platforms like Facebook, Insta, Snap, TikTok, YouTube. I don't think parents are going to stand by while our kids and our democracy become collateral damage to a profit game. And I heard last night Mark Zuckerberg's words to his earnings report. And while he may be out there acting as a victim at his $29 billion quarter earnings report meeting, the true victims, the mom in Duluth who can't get her kid off Facebook to do her homework, the dad mourning losing a child to a Snap speed filter that measured the kid at going 123 miles per hour, trying to beat the filter, or a child exposed to content glorifying eating disorders on TikTok. So I have had a case right in my state, 2 cases actually, of young people who got drugs through Snap. And I wanted to first start out with that with you, Ms. Stout. This is a story, there's 2 kids, Devin Noring, Ryan McPherson. Devin's story, he was suffering from dental pain at the beginning of the pandemic. He couldn't go in to see a doctor. He'd been given a Percocet before, and a classmate said he had a Percocet. Well, what this young man did not know is that this Percocet was laced with fentanyl, and he died just like that. As his mom said in a letter to me, all of the hopes and dreams we as parents had for Devin were erased in the blink of an eye. A group of parents, including Devin's mother, Bridget, demanded answers and accountability from Snap on this issue in a letter to you in September. Ms. Stout, I want to know what the answers are. Will you commit to providing more information about the automated tools Snap uses to proactively search for illegal drug-related content as the parents ask?
Senator, I very much appreciate you raising this issue because it has been a devastating crisis that's been afflicting our young people. I want to make clear we are absolutely determined to remove all drug dealers from Snapchat, and we've been very public about our efforts in this space. First of all, we have stepped up our operational efforts, and my heart goes out to the family of Devin Noring. I've met with Bridget Noring. I met with her back in April. I heard from her and other families to understand what is happening to them, their experience, and also what's happening on Snapchat. We have stepped up and we have deployed proactive detection measures to get in ahead of what the drug dealers are doing. They are constantly evading our tactics, not just on Snapchat, but on every platform. We've also stepped up our work with law enforcement. Just last week, we had a law enforcement summit where we gathered over 2,000 members of law enforcement across the country so that we can understand what they're dealing with and find out best practices on how we can get them the information they need to help their investigation. And finally, Senator, this is so important, but we have deployed an education and awareness campaign because what is happening on our platforms all across social media and technology platforms is that young people who are suffering from mental health and stress induced by the pandemic and other issues, they are reaching for substances, oftentimes pills and opioids, but these substances are laced with fentanyl, enough fentanyl to kill them.
But here's my problem is that if a kid had just walked into, say, a pharmacy, you wouldn't be able to buy that or get that. But in this case, they can get on your platform and just find a way to buy it. And that is the problem. And I guess I want to know, are you going to get your drugs? I appreciate everything you said. I appreciate you meeting with the mom. Are you going to get drugs off Snapchat when you have all these kids, half the kids in America looking at these platforms?
I assure you, this is such a top priority for our entire company. And Senator, it's not just happening on our platform, it's happening on others. So therefore, we need to work collectively with other platforms, the other companies that are here today.
That's good.
To work together.
Okay, thank you. I think there's other ways to do this too, as creating liability when this happens. So maybe that'll make you work even faster so we don't lose another kid. Mr. Beckerman, recent investigation by the Wall Street Journal found that TikTok's algorithm can push young users into content glorifying eating disorders, drug, violence. Have you stopped that?
Yes, Senator. I don't agree with the way the Wall Street Journal went about that, but with that said, we have made a number of improvements to the way people can have control over the algorithm and have age-appropriate content on TikTok.
Okay, and what are those changes? Like, are they still getting, they're completely protected now from this content?
Senator, the content related to drugs, as you're pointing out, it violates our community guidelines. As it relates to minor safety, over 97% of violative content is removed proactively. Of course, we want to get to 100%, and it's something that we're constantly working on.
Are you aware of any research studies your company has conducted about how your apps may push content promoting eating disorders to teens?
No, Senator.
Okay. Did you ask for any hurdle studies on eating disorders before testifying?
Not that I'm aware, but we do work with outside experts to understand all of these issues. I think it should be done in a transparent way. As I mentioned earlier, I'd love to see the CAMERA Act passed so we can have additional research in the public domain that all of us can learn from and improve.
Okay, I'll save my questions for Ms. Miller for the next round. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Klobuchar. And again, I would remind everyone that you've committed to provide the research that you just referred to in your responses to Senator Klobuchar. All of you have committed to provide that research, and we'll look forward to receiving it within days or weeks, not months. And I particularly appreciate Senator Klobuchar's reference to creating liability as a strong incentive, which would involve reform of Section 230. I understand.
And Mr. Chair, if I could put this letter in from the parents into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you.
We've been joined by Senator Cantwell remotely.
Mr. Chairman, I would defer to my colleagues, Senator Markey and Senator Baldwin.
Thanks very much. Senator Markey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. The problem is clear. Big tech preys on children and teens to make more money. Now is the time for the legislative solutions to these problems. And that starts with privacy. I've introduced bipartisan legislation to give children and teens a privacy bill of rights for the 21st century. Today, a 13-year-old girl on these apps has no privacy rights. She has no ability to say no. No, you can't gobble up data about me. No, you can't use that data to power algorithms that push toxic content towards me. No, you can't profile me to manipulate me and keep me glued to your apps. No, you have no rights, 13-year-old girl in the United States of America in the year 2021. My bipartisan Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act gives 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that right to say no. To each witness, do you support my legislation to update the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act to give that 13, 14, and 15-year-old control of their data? Ms. Stout.
Senator Markey, I just want to say that we absolutely support a federal privacy proposal, and we've worked very hard with members of this body to try to...
Do you support my child protection, my teen protection law? Do you support it?
So, Senator, we agree that there should be additional protections put against young people to protect them further from...
Right. So you've had a chance to look at the Child Online Privacy Protection update that I've introduced. It's been out there for years. Do you support it or not?
I think, Senator, we'd love to talk to you a bit more about some of the
we've
issues.
Listen, this is just what drives us crazy. We want to talk, we want to talk, we want to talk. This bill's been out there for years, and you still don't have a view on it. Do you support it or not?
I think there are things that we would like to work with you on, Senator.
Listen, this is just the old game. Mr. Beckerman, do you support the Child Online Privacy Protection Act being updated the way my legislation does?
Senator, thank you for your leadership on this issue. It's been very important. Yes, we agree that COPPA needs to be updated, particularly as it relates to the way age verification happens across the internet. It's an area that I think has been not given as much attention as it deserves, that we do agree that COPPA does need to be updated.
Do you support my legislation to update it? You've had plenty of time to look at it.
We like your approach. However, I think a piece that should be included is a better way to verify age across the internet, across apps, rather than the system that is in place now. And I think with that improvement, it would be something that we'd be happy to support.
Okay, Ms. Miller.
Senator, we also support the goals of updated comprehensive privacy legislation on your specific bill. I know we've had conversations with your staff in a constructive manner, and I would welcome continuing to do that.
Yeah, but it's going to happen soon, because this is a crisis that, thank you, Senator Blumenthal, thank you, Congresswoman Blackburn, this has just surfaced in a way that's clear that we don't have any more time. We have to get this finished. Your platforms are full of young teens. Among young teens, 49% say they're on TikTok, 52% say they're on Snapchat, 81% say they're on YouTube. And those users, those 13-year-olds, they deserve the right to say, no, you can't track me. Do you agree with that, Ms. Stout? You can't track me. You do agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that,
Do you agree with that, Mr. Beckerman?
Yes, Senator.
Do you agree with that, Ms. Miller?
Yes, Senator, and we have tools for all of our users to handle and control and make choices as it relates to the information that is gathered.
Okay, the bill also would ban targeted ads to children, apps that should never be allowed to track a 10-year-old's browsing history and bombard him with ads based on that data. Ms. Miller, you said that YouTube Kids platform prohibits targeted ads to children. Do you agree that Congress must ban targeted ads to children?
Senator, I defer to you and your peers in terms of what you would want to move forward. But again, we have not waited for laws like this.
No, I'm saying to you, would you support to make sure there's a uniform banning of this practice? If you have already adopted it as a company, would you support that being the standard that we have for all platforms across the country?
As you describe it, it's consistent with the approach we've already taken.
And you would support it? Is that what you're saying?
Senator, again, we are already doing this. And
No, I'm asking you, would you support?
Consistent.
No, we're trying to draft a law here. Would you support that provision being in a law that prohibited it?
Senator, yes, as we already prohibit targeted
Okay,
advertising
that's
on
all we're
YouTube
trying
Kids
to
as
do,
it is.
just get to yes so that we can legislate it. So that we can legislate. Ms. Berkman, Ms. Stout, same question. Should kids ban targeted ads to kids?
Senator, we offer those tools already where kids can opt out and not have targeted ads served to them.
Would you support that as a national law, that we ban it?
Senator, an example of that has been the age-appropriate design code, which we adhere to, and I can tell you, Senator, we are looking at exactly that model to
Would you
apply
support
elsewhere.
it as a law that this body passes this year just to prohibit it? If you say it's wrong, should we prohibit it?
We offer those, and we agree with the approach, so,
So yes, you do support it, yes or no?
we agree with your approach, so we are applying it to more
Right, I
markets
appreciate what
outside
you're
of the-
doing. Right, we're now trying to say, if you support it, then we just support a law to
think we're
prohibit
very
anyone
close.
else from doing it. Yes?
I think we're very close, Senator, yes.
Very close. Okay, Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator, I would also say that we should go beyond that, and part of the approach that we've taken is certain categories of ads shouldn't be shown to teenagers and young adults at all, and I think that should be part of the approach as well.
Okay, so we also need to go beyond privacy and tackle the design features that harm young people. Take like buttons. Senator Blumenthal and I have a bill, the Kids Act, which would ban these and other features that quantify popularity. The research is clear. These features turn apps into virtual popularity contests and are linked to feelings of rejection, low self-worth, and depression. Even YouTube Kids has acknowledged this problem and does not have like buttons. To each witness, should Congress ban features that quantify popularity for kids, yes or no?
Senator, as I mentioned in my opening statement, we don't have those metrics. We've never had a like button or comments because we don't think it should be a popularity contest, so we support that.
So you would support that, okay? Ms. Beckerman. Mr. Beckerman.
Senator, I think this one is one that it's a little bit more complex than that. We'd happy to have a conversation, but we have implemented much of the age-appropriate design code here in the United States and would encourage similar measures.
So I don't know that there was an answer in there. You said it's complicated. Do you support banning it or not?
On banning likes,
Likes, yes.
I think again, if we wanted to set it by age, that's something that we could look at.
Ms. Miller.
Senator, as you noted, we are already prohibit things on YouTube Kids such as being able to comment, and we would support working with you in regulation in this area.
Okay, well, you would support working with us, but would you support banning likes?
Yes, Senator, again, we already do not allow for this on the YouTube Kids platform.
Good. And again, the American Academy of Pediatrics just declared a national state of emergency for children and teen mental health. We need to outlaw the online features that exacerbate this crisis. The question that, we have to answer ultimately is, whether or not, for example, we're going to ban autoplay for kids. With this feature, when one video ends, another quickly begins. Kids stay glued to their phones, so apps collect more data and make more money. Today, 82% of parents are worried about their kids' screen time. To each of you today, do you agree that Congress should ban autoplay for kids? Yes or no? Ms. Miller, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, Senator, each of the items that you're outlining, we already prohibit. We have the default set to autoplay off on YouTube Kids as well as for supervised experiences.
Okay, so you would support that being legislated?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Beckerman.
For us, Senator, we have take-a-break videos and time management tools, but as it relates to autoplay on TikTok, you have to proactively switch to the next video.
So would you support that legislation passing then, which would ban autoplay?
We'd be happy to look at it and talk to you about it.
You don't do it.
Again, I think it's important as we look at age-appropriate features for teens. It's something that we build into TikTok proactively. But again, as we look at legislation, I do think a first step is something around age verification across apps.
Again, this is the historic problem. Yes, Ms. Stout, would you support it?
Senator Markey, I don't believe we have autoplay on Snapchat, so I would defer and say that that's something we need to look at more closely.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with that piece of the proposal in your legislation.
Okay, great. We have a lot of work to do, and we have to telescope the time frame, I think, Mr. Chairman, to get these people to finally stop
Telescoping the
studying it
timeframe
and finally
sounds good.
start acting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator Markey. Thanks for all your good work. Senator Baldwin. Or actually, I see Senator Cantwell is here. Oh, sorry, Senator Thune.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all know social media offers a lot of benefits and opportunities, but like has been expressed this morning, I have concerns about the lack of transparency online and limited accountability of big tech companies. And one of the major problems with social media that has been increasingly concerning is social media's platforms' use of algorithms to shape and manipulate users' experience, resulting in individuals being trapped in what we call the filter bubble. The filter bubble can be particularly troubling for younger users. For example, a recent Wall Street Journal article described in detail how TikTok's algorithm serves up sex and drug videos to minors. I have a bill, the Filter Bubble Transparency Act, and another bill called the PACT Act that would make significant strides in addressing the lack of transparency online. And importantly, the Filter Bubble Transparency Act would give consumers the option to engage with internet platforms without being manipulated by opaque algorithms. So let me just ask you, do you believe consumers should be able to use social media platforms without being manipulated by algorithms designed to keep them engaged on the platform? Mr. Beckerman, start with you, then we'll go Ms. Miller and Ms. Stout.
Yes, Senator, we agree that there needs to be transparency in the way algorithms work and additional choice for individuals as they're using them.
Ms. Miller?
Senator, we do provide transparency in the way that our systems and practices work.
Ms. Stout?
Senator Thune, it's important to understand that what we apply algorithms to is a very small set of content, and we do provide transparency to our users, where users get to select interest categories that then determine the kind of content that they're served up. But it's not an unlimited list or set of user-generated content. It's quite narrow.
But I don't know that you or Ms. Miller really answered the question, and that is, should consumers who use these social media platforms be able to use them without being manipulated by algorithms?
Senator, yes, I agree with you.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Beckerman, what's your response to the Wall Street Journal article that described in detail how TikTok's algorithm serves up sex and drug videos to minors?
Senator, thank you for the question. Sex and drugs or violations of our community guidelines have no place on TikTok. As it relates to the Wall Street Journal article, we disagree with that being an authentic experience that an actual user would have.
Your platform is perhaps more driven by algorithms than any other social media platform available today, more so even than Facebook. Unlike Facebook, TikTok's algorithm's not constrained by a user's social network. On July 29, 2020, TikTok's former CEO, Kevin Mayer, wrote, and I quote, that we believe all companies should disclose their algorithms, moderation policies, and data flows to regulators, end quote. TikTok also states on its website that it makes TikTok source code available for testing and evaluation to guests at its Transparency and Accountability Center. Has TikTok disclosed their algorithms, moderation policies, and data flows to any federal or state regulators?
Senator, yes. I mean, as we pointed out, we do have these transparency centers, and we've done, I don't think, over 100 tours with members of the Senate, their staff, and others in the U.S. government, and we'd be happy to continue to be transparent in how that works.
And I think maybe that Senator Blumenthal maybe touched on this, but in keeping with TikTok's disclosure practices announced in July of 2020, would you commit to providing TikTok's algorithms, moderation policies, and data flows to this committee so that we may have independent experts review them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, does YouTube engage in efforts to change its users' attitudes, behaviors, or influence its users in any way?
Senator, when users come to YouTube, they come to search and discover all types of content. For example, how to bake bread, to watch a church service, or to do exercise. And as a result, they are introduced to a diversity of content that isn't based on a particular network that they are a part of. In so doing, there may be additional videos that are recommended to them based on some signals, but those signals will be overridden to make sure that we are not recommending harmful content.
Back to Mr. Beckerman. All Chinese internet companies are compelled by China's national intelligence law to turn over any and all data that the government demands, and that power is not limited by China's borders. Has TikTok provided data to the Chinese government on Chinese persons living in the United States or elsewhere outside of China?
No, Senator. TikTok is also not available in China, and as I'd like to point out that our servers with U.S. data are stored in the United States.
Does TikTok censor videos of Tank Man, the famous video of the young man who stood his ground in front of a procession of Chinese Army tanks during the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown in Beijing?
No, Senator. You can find that content on TikTok if you search for it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that, as has already been pointed out on the committee, that I think there are a number of things that we need to address. Congress needs to be heard from in this space, and particularly with respect to the use of algorithms and the way that users are manipulated, and as you've all already pointed out, particularly young people. So I hope that we can move quickly and directly and in a meaningful way to address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have strong bipartisan consensus on that issue. Thank you, Senator Thune. Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Chairman Blumenthal. I would like to just note that this series of hearings really began with the revelation that internal research at Facebook revealed the negative impacts on teenagers' body images from using the company's Instagram platform. And we learned, based on research by the chairman's staff, how quickly somebody on Instagram can go from viewing content on healthy eating to being directed towards postings that focus on unhealthy practices, including glorifying eating disorders. I know we don't have Facebook and Instagram before us today, but I'm particularly concerned about the impact that that type of content can have on young users. I recently joined Senators Klobuchar and Kowtow, with whom we sponsored the Anna Weston Act, legislation to support training and education on eating disorders, on a letter to Facebook and Instagram seeking more details about how they handle this issue. But I want to ask each of you, can you briefly outline the steps your companies are taking to remove content that promotes unhealthy body image and eating disorders and direct users to supportive resources instead? And in particular, how are you focusing on this issue with regard to your younger users? Why don't we start with Mr. Beckerman and TikTok?
Thank you, Senator. I myself have 2 young daughters, and this is something that I care a lot about, and our teams at TikTok care a lot about. One, I want to assure you we do aggressively remove content like you're describing that would be problematic for eating disorders and problem eating. Second, we work with outside groups and direct people that are seeking help. And one thing we've heard is that people that are struggling with eating disorders or other weight loss issues come to TikTok to express themselves in a positive way, and so it has been a more of a positive source. And lastly, we don't allow ads that target people based on weight loss and that kind of content.
Ms. Stout.
Thank you, Senator Baldwin. I want to make clear that the content that you describe, content that glorifies eating disorders or self-harm, is a complete violation of our community guidelines. Also, as I described earlier, we don't allow unvetted, unmoderated content from being surfaced up to our users. Discover, which is our media publisher platform, which we partner on with people and publishing companies like the Wall Street Journal or NBC News, all of that content is vetted and moderated ahead of time.
Can I
But
just
specifically, yes.
Can I interrupt and ask, is that done through AI or humans?
No, these are hand-picked partners that Snapchat has selected to say, in this closed garden of content, which is Discover, we will allow certain publishers and media companies to provide news, entertainment content, ESPN or CMT or, the Washington Post, in fact. So users can come, look at that content. It's all pre-moderated and curated. So it's not an unlimited source of user-generated content where you could go down a rabbit hole perhaps and access that kind of hurtful, damaging content on body image. But I think you raised a very interesting question. What are the products that you're surfacing? How are we helping users find positive resources? And as a result, we did conduct research about the mental health effects of body image and self-harm, and we created a product called Here For You. This was created in 2020 in the height of the pandemic. When users are in Snapchat and they search anorexia or eating disorder, instead of perhaps being led to content that could be harmful, that content which is against our guidelines, we now surface expert resources that show content that can help that user. Maybe help them, maybe help their friends. So this is a redirection of that kind of search for potentially hurtful and harmful content that then steers the user to resources that may help them or a member of their, circle of friends.
Ms. Miller.
Senator, we take a comprehensive and really holistic approach on topics like these. We prohibit content that promotes or glorifies things such as eating disorders. It has no place on our platform. But we also realize that users come to share their stories about these experiences or find a community, let alone to find authoritative sources, which is what we raise up on searches like this. In addition, we also roll out programs and initiatives such as the With Me campaign, whereby we are encouraging users to spend their time, particularly during COVID, in pursuing healthy habits. So we look at this in a very holistic way to make sure that YouTube is a platform where people come and they have a healthy experience, and we, again, prohibit the type of content that glorifies or promotes these issues such as eating disorders.
And just if I can follow up the same way I did with Ms. Stout, when you remove content, how are you filtering that out? Are you using artificial intelligence, or are you using a team of humans who are, a team of people who are looking at that content and deciding whether to remove it or not?
It's a mix, Senator. So it's a mix of when we develop content policies, we rely on experts to inform the development of these policies. And then we have machine learning to help us capture this type of content at scale. You'll see in our quarterly transparency report that more than 90% of content that violates our community guidelines are flagged originally by machines. And then there's a mix of human reviewers.
Thank you. I want to thank the Senator Blumenthal and Senator Blackburn for holding this subcommittee hearing. And as the witnesses can see, our colleagues are well-informed and very anxious to get legislative fixes to things that they think are crucial to protecting individuals and protecting people's privacy. So I want to thank them for that. Yesterday, Motherboard Vice had an article that basically the headline was location data from GPS data from apps are given even when people have opted out. So basically I'm going to enter this for the record unless there's objection, but quote, the news highlights a stark problem that smartphone users, that they can't actually be sure if some apps are respecting their explicit preferences around data sharing. The data transfer presents an issue for the location data companies themselves. So basically these companies are reporting information about location even when people have explicitly opted out. And so they're continuing to collect this information. That is what the report of researchers and Motherboard found. So I have a question. Do you believe that location data is sensitive data and should be collected only with consumers' consent? All the witnesses, please.
Yes, Senator, we agree.
Yes, Senator, agree.
Yes, Senator. And for users, they have access to their account under My Activity in My Account and can modify their settings, delete their history, and things of that nature. It's all just one click away.
So any federal privacy law should make sure that that's adhered to. I see a nod. Is that?
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do any of you share location data with the company that's in this article? It's Huck, I think, H-U-K. They're a major data.
Senator, I've never heard of that company. I'm not aware.
Okay.
Senator, I'm not aware of the company, but we also don't collect GPS data.
Well, you would be affiliated with them in some way. I mean, they're getting this information anyway. So I'm sorry, the last witness, if you, do you know?
Senator, I'm also not aware of the
Okay,
company.
maybe you can help us for the record on this, so that we know. But this is exactly what the public is frustrated about and concerned about, particularly when harm can be done. That, you know, they go to a website, they say to the website, I don't want my sensitive information to be shared, and then there's this conglomerate of data gathering on top of that that's not honoring those wishes as it relates to the interface with those apps. So this is, I think, exactly why we need a strong privacy law and why we should, protect consumers on this. In the Facebook hearing we had this discussion about advertising and the issue of whether advertisers knew exactly what the content was they were being advertised. Now, I get that, we're also seeing a migration of major companies like Procter & Gamble and others who are moving off of the internet because they're like, I'm done with it. I don't want my ad because it's now run by a system. I don't want my ad just appearing next to certain kinds of content. And so, but what was more startling is that there may be actual deceptive practices here where people are saying, oh, this content is this, when in reality it is something else. In some of these cases we just discussed with Facebook, objectionable hate speech and content that we don't even think should be online, and yet that's not what the advertisers knew. So on your websites, do advertisers know what content they're being placed next to?
So, Senator, I can respond to your question. Yes, our advertisers do know where their advertisements show up. And as I had mentioned, Discover, which is that closed, curated garden, those advertisements appear next to publishers and verified users that we have hand-selected to allow to appear. So on a platform like Snapchat, there is no broadcast disinformation or hate speech, and that's why I think Snapchat is, in fact, a very appealing place for advertisers because they know their advertisements will be placed next to safe content.
Mr. Beckerman?
Yes, Senator. Advertisers come to TikTok in particular because our content is known for being so authentic and uplifting and fun, and we see ads that are very much like TikTok videos, which are the same themes.
Ms. Miller?
Senator, we have worked with our advertising partners over the years to make sure that they have trust in the fact that advertising on YouTube is safe for their brands, in the same way that we have worked significantly to make sure that users themselves have a safe experience on the platform. And the advertising associations have recognized the work that we have done in this space so that their brands are safe on the platform.
Thank you. I'll probably have a follow-up on this, but Senator Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Miller, I'd like to start with you, if that's all right. I want to ask you a particular question regarding YouTube's app age rating. Now, Google Play has the app rating set at teen, meaning 13 and up, while the Apple Store has it rated as 17 and up. Can you tell me why this disparity exists? That is, if Apple determined that the age rating for YouTube ought to be 17 and up. Why did Google determine that its own app should be rated as teen, meaning 13 and up?
Senator, I'm unfamiliar with the differences that you've just outlined, but I would be happy to follow up with you and your staff once I get more details on this.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to know about that. It is a simple question. I understand you may not be able to answer it right now if as it sounds, you don't have the information, but I would just like to know why that difference exists and whether you agree or disagree with the fact that Google has rated its own app as 13 and up, while Apple has rated it 17 and up. But I'm happy to follow up on that in writing or otherwise. Ms. Stout, I want to address a similar issue with regard to Snapchat. Now, Snapchat is rated 12 and up on Apple, and it's rated teen on the Google Play Store. Any idea why there is that disparity there?
Senator, that's a very good question, and I for some reason I've heard somewhere the reason why Apple lists at 12 and up. It's an app that's intended for a teen audience.
Right. And why is there a disparity between the age rating and the content that's available on that platform?
Senator, the content that appears on Snapchat is appropriate for an age group of 13 and above.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because I beg to differ. In anticipation of this discussion and this hearing, I had my staff create a Snapchat account for a 13-year-old, for a 15-year-old child. Now, they didn't select any content preferences for the account. They simply entered a name, a birth year, and an email address. And then when they opened the Discover page on Snapchat, with its default settings, they were immediately bombarded with content that I can most politely describe as wildly inappropriate for a child, including recommendations for, among other things, an invite to play an online sexualized video game that's marketed itself to people who are 18 and up, tips on, quote, why you shouldn't go to bars alone, notices for video games that are rated for ages 17 and up, and articles about porn stars. Now, let me remind you that this this inappropriate content that has by default been recommended for a 15-year-old child is something that was sent to them by an app just using the default settings. So I respectfully but very strongly beg to differ on your characterization that the content is in fact suitable for children 13 and up, as you say. Now, according to your own website, the Discover is a list of recommended stories. So how and why does Snapchat choose these inappropriate stories to recommend to children? How does that happen? How would that happen?
So, Senator, allow me to explain a little bit about Discover. Discover really is a closed content platform, and yes, indeed, we do select and hand select partners that we work with. And that kind of content is designed to appear on Discover and resonate with an audience that is 13 and above. I am unfamiliar, and I've taken notes about what you have said that your account surfaced. I want to make clear that what content and community guidelines suggest that any online sexual video game should be age-gated to 18 and above. So I am unclear why that content would have shown up in an account that was for a 14-year-old. But these community guidelines and publisher guidelines that are on top of those guidelines are intended to be an age-appropriate experience for a 13-year-old.
Right. I understand that. You have these community guidelines that are there, and they note that advertisers and media partners in Discover agree to additional guidelines. What are these additional guidelines? I mean, I can guess only that they permit these age-inappropriate articles to be shared with children.
Senator,
How would that not be the case?
so these additional guidelines on top of community guidelines are things that suggest that they may not glorify violence, that any news articles must be accurate and fact-checked, that there is no...
Well, I'm sure the articles about the porn stars were accurate and fact-checked. And I'm sure that the tips on why you shouldn't go to bars alone are accurate and fact-checked, but that's not my question. This is about whether it's appropriate for children ages 13 and up, as you've certified.
Absolutely. And Senator, I think this is an area where we're constantly evolving, and if there are any instances where these publishers are surfacing content to an age cohort that is inappropriate, then they will be removed from our platform.
Okay, so you review them? What kind of oversight do you conduct on this? And what...
We use a variety of human review as well as automated review, and so I would very much be interested in talking to you and your staff about what kind of content this was, because if it violates our guidelines, that kind of content would come down. And just, Senator, one last thing. While I would agree with you, tastes vary when it comes to the kind of content that is promoted on Discover. There is no content there that is illegal. There is no content there that is hurtful. I mean, it really is intended to be a closed ecosystem where we have better control over the type of content that surfaces.
Now, Madam Chair, I just have one follow-up question. I just realized my...
Yes, go ahead,
I'll be
Senator
brief.
Lee, and then our colleague, Senator Lujan.
Thank you.
been
Thank you so
patiently
much,
waiting.
Madam Chair. So Snapchat has assured its users that it doesn't collect identifying data on them for advertising. How does Snapchat then decide what content is pushed to the top of their Discover page?
So, Senator, if you go into your Snapchat account, you have the ability to select preferences, it's interest categories. And there are several interest categories that a user can select or unselect if they wish. That could be they like, to watch movies, or they enjoy sports, or they are fans of country music. At any point, it is completely transparent, and a user has the ability to go in and select what they like, and that determines the kind of content that is surfaced to them. If there is any content that they don't like, they can uncheck or check, and that really generates the kind of content that a user in Discover would see.
Okay, my time's expired. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I really do think we've got to get to the bottom of this. These app ratings are inappropriate. We all know that there's content on Snapchat and on YouTube, among many other places, that's not appropriate for children ages 12 or 13 and up.
Well, I thank you, Senator Lee, and I would say to my line of questioning, and it's not appropriate to tell advertisers that it's not located next to content, and then it is next to content that is inappropriate. Senator Lujan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Ms. Stout, in your testimony, you mentioned that all content on Snapchat on the Spotlight page is human reviewed before it can be viewed by more than 25 people. Ms. Stout, yes or no, does human review help Snapchat reduce the spread of potentially harmful content?
Yes, Senator, we believe it does.
And I appreciate Snapchat's approach to this problem. More platforms should work to stop harmful content from going viral. However, far too often we find companies say one thing to Congress, and then once attention is diverted and the public is distracted, they go around and do the very thing they were warning us against. Can I hold you to that? Will Snapchat continue to keep a human in the loop before content is algorithmically promoted to large audiences?
Well, Senator, this is the first time I've testified here before Congress, so please hold me to it. But at Snapchat, we have taken a very human moderation first approach, not just on Spotlight, but across our platform. So yes, indeed, human moderation will continue to play a huge part of how we moderate content on our platform and how we keep our users safe.
I'm glad to see the importance of platforms taking responsibility before they amplify content and especially publish it to a mass audience, and it's something that many of us share. It's why I introduced the Protecting Americans from Dangerous Algorithms Act as well. Online platforms must be responsible when they're actively promoting hateful and dangerous content. Ms. Miller, I'm grateful that YouTube is making an effort to be more transparent regarding the number of users that view content in violation of your community guidelines. However, I'm concerned with one trend. Earlier this year, I wrote a letter to YouTube with 25 of my colleagues on the crisis of non-English misinformation on the platform. We need to make sure all communities, no matter the language they use at home, have the same access to good, reliable information. Ms. Miller, will YouTube publish its violative view rates broken down by language?
Senator, thank you for your question. And what you're referring to is this latest data point that we shared earlier this year, in which for every 10,000 views on YouTube, 19 to 21 of those views are of content that is violative. And we apply our content policies at a global scale across languages. We do not preference any one language over another, and this includes for the violative view rate.
And Ms. Miller, I don't believe that's good enough. When we don't break algorithms down by their performances across different groups of people, we end up making existing gaps, existing biases worse. We've seen this with facial recognition technology that unfairly targeted communities of color, and according to reports, we're seeing this happen right now on YouTube. So I'll ask again, will YouTube publish its violative view rate broken down by language?
Senator, I would be happy to follow up with you to talk through these details. As I said, for all of our content policies and the enforcement there within and the transparency we provide, it is global in scope and it is across languages.
I definitely look forward to following up and working with you in that space. Mr. Beckerman, before launching TikTok for younger users, did TikTok do any internal research to understand the impact it would have on young children?
Thank you, Senator. I'm not aware, but for TikTok for younger users, the content is curated with common sense networks, and it's an age-appropriate experience, but I'm not aware of any specific research.
I'd like to follow up on that as well, because products like TikTok can lead to addictive behavior and body image issues in young children, and it's critical that platforms work to understand these problems before they take place. This is a very serious issue, and it's one that's finally getting the attention that it deserves with revelations and whistleblowers that have come forth. I urge you to take this opportunity to begin a transparent public evaluation of the impact your product is having on young children. And in the end, I just want to follow up on something that many of us have commented on leading up to these important hearings. And I appreciate the chair's attention to this, the ranking member. Both of them have authored legislation. Our chair and ranking member of the subcommittee have also partnered on legislative initiatives. It's critically important that we continue moving forward and that we mark up legislation and get something adopted. And I'm certainly hopeful that here in the United States, we're paying attention to what's happening in other parts of the world. Again, Europe is outpacing the United States and being responsible with legislative initiatives surrounding protecting their consumers. There's no reason we can't do that here as well. And I just want to thank Chair Cantwell for the work that she has been doing in this particular space. And I definitely look forward to working with everyone to make sure that we're able to get this done here in the United States. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
Senator Lujan, so you've reintroduced that bill in the Senate, is that right? So, okay, thank you. Very much appreciate that and appreciate your leadership. So the witnesses, we're waiting the return of Senator Blumenthal so I could go and vote. If he doesn't come in the next minute or so, we'll just take a short recess because we're way past time to get over there. But I want to thank all the members who've participated thus far because we've had a very robust discussion today. You can see that this is a topic that the members of this committee feel very, very passionately about and obviously believe that there's much more that we need to be doing in this particular area. So I appreciate everybody's attendance and focus. And again, want to thank Senator Blumenthal and Senator Blackburn for their leadership in having both of these hearings. And for the larger full committee, we had planned to move forward on many of these agenda items anyway, but we're very appreciative of the subcommittee doing some of this work in having members have a chance to have very detailed interactions on these policies that we need to take action on. So very much appreciate that. So I see Senator Blumenthal has returned. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Cantwell, and thanks for your excellent work on this issue. I'd like to ask some additional questions on legislative proposals. One of the suggestions that Senator Klobuchar raised was legal responsibility and liability, which, as you know, is now precluded by Section 230. Let me ask each of you, would you support responsible measures like the Earn It Act, which I have proposed, to impose some legal responsibility and liability, cutting back on the immunity that Section 230 affords? Ms. Stout?
Senator, we agree at Snapchat that there should be an update to the intermediary platform liability law, CDA 230. And in fact, the last time this body addressed a reform, which was for the SESTA FOSTA, Snapchat was a company that actively participated in that and helped draft legislation. So we would welcome another opportunity, Senator, to work with you on that.
Thank you. Would you support the Earn It Act, which, as you know, Senator Graham and I have proposed, that imposes liability and affords victims the opportunity to take action against platforms that engage in child pornography and related abuses?
Of course, Senator, we completely prohibit that kind of activity, that illegal activity, and we actively look for it. And when we find it, we remove it. If you would allow me to get back to you, it's been a while since I've looked at the Earn It Act. I do recall when you and Senator Graham introduced it, but I believe that the spirit of your legislation is something we'd very much support.
Well, you had the opportunity before to say whether you supported it. So far, you haven't. Will you commit to supporting it?
Senator, again, my memory is failing me a little bit, but I do believe that the provisions in the Earn It Act were many of the provisions that we supported. So I'd be happy to come back with a more specific answer for you.
Mr. Beckerman.
Thank you, Senator. We do agree that there needs to be a higher degree of accountability and responsibility for platforms, particularly as it relates to content moderation, that needs to be done in a way that allows all platforms to moderate in an appropriate and aggressive way to make sure that the kinds of content that none of us want to see on the internet or on any of our platforms is able to be removed.
Do you support changes in Section 230 to impose liability?
There absolutely can and should be changes, but again, in a way that would allow companies like ours that are good actors, that are aggressively moderating our platform in a way that we think is responsible to be able to continue to do so.
Will you support the Earn It Act?
We'd be happy. Again, we agree with the spirit of it. We'd be happy to work with you and your staff on that bill.
Well, the bill, again, was reported unanimously out of the Judiciary Committee during the last session. It hasn't changed significantly. Did you support it then?
I think the concern would be unintended consequences that would lead to hampering companies' ability to remove and police violative content on platforms.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a maybe.
Well, so far we have two maybes. Ms. Miller?
Senator, I'm aware of a number of proposals regarding potential updates to 230, and me and my team, as well as the other teams across Google, have been involved in the conversations regarding these various proposals. I would just like to say, though, that we see 230 as the backbone of the internet, and it is what allows us to moderate content, to make sure that we are taking down content that leads to potentially eating disorders, for example, what we've been talking about here earlier, or self-harm. So we want to make sure that we continue to have protections in place so we can moderate our platforms so that they are safe and healthy for users. I am aware of the Earn It Act, and I know again that our staffs have been speaking, but I understand, I think there's still ongoing discussions regarding some portions of the proposal. But we also very much appreciate and understand the rationale as to why this was introduced, particularly around the area of child safety.
Well, again, is that a yes or a no? Do you support it?
We support the goals of the Earn It Act, but there are some details that I think are still being discussed.
Well, you know, as Senator Markey has said, this is the talk that we've seen again and again and again and again. We support the goals, but that's meaningless unless you support the legislation. And it took a fight, literally bare knuckle fight, to get through legislation that made an exception under SESTA for liability on human trafficking. Just one small piece of reform. And I joined in the frustration felt by many of my colleagues that good intentions, support for goals, endorsement of purposes is no substitute for actual endorsement. I would ask that each and every one of you support the Earn It Act, but also other specific measures that will provide for legal responsibility. And I think I know what Ms. Miller means by the claim that Section 230 provides a backbone, but it's a backbone without any real spine right now, because all it does is afford virtually limitless immunity to the internet and to the companies that are here. I'm going to interrupt my second round and call on Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beckerman, thank you for being here today. I understand this is the first time that TikTok is testifying before Congress, and I appreciate you making the company available to finally answer some questions. In your testimony, you talked about all the things you say TikTok is doing to protect kids online, and that's great. But I want to discuss the broader issue here, which is the control the Chinese Communist Party has over TikTok. Its parent company, ByteDance, and its sister companies like Beijing ByteDance Technology. Now, TikTok has stated repeatedly that it doesn't share the data it collects from Americans with the Chinese Communist Party, and that it wouldn't do so if asked. It has also stated that, with regards to data collected on and from Americans, that data is stored in Virginia with a backup in Singapore. But these denials may in fact be misleading. A quick look at TikTok's privacy policy, in fact, just last night, shows there's a lot more than meets the eyes. For example, in the, quote, how we share your information section, one blurb reads, quote, we may share all of the information we collect with a parent, subsidiary, or other affiliate of our corporate group. Interestingly, in June of this year, the privacy policy was updated to state that TikTok, quote, may collect biometric identifiers and biometric information as defined under U.S. laws, such as face prints and voice prints. Mr. Beckerman, does TikTok consider ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, which is headquartered in Beijing, to be a part of TikTok's, quote, corporate group, as that term is used in your privacy policy?
Thank you, Senator. This is an important question. I'd just like to take an opportunity first to clear up misconceptions around some of the accusations that have been leveled against the company. I would like to point to independent research. I understand that trust needs to be earned.
Mr. Beckerman, I get you may have broader points you want to make. My question is simple and straightforward. Does TikTok consider ByteDance, the parent company headquartered in Beijing, to be part of TikTok's corporate group? That's a yes or no.
Senator, access controls for our data is done by our U.S. teams. And as independent researchers, independent experts have pointed out, the data that TikTok has on the app is not of a national security importance and is of low sensitivity. But again, we do hold that to a high standard, and we have access controls.
Mr. Beckerman, we're going to try a third time because the words that came out of your mouth have no relation to the question you were asked. Your privacy policy says you will share information with your corporate group. I'm asking a very simple question. Is ByteDance, your parent company, headquartered in Beijing, part of your corporate group? Yes or no, as you use the term in your privacy policy?
Senator, I think it's important that I address the broader point in your statement.
So are you willing to answer the question, yes or no? It is a yes or no question. Are they part of your corporate group or not?
Yes, Senator, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay, so under your privacy policy, you're explicitly stating that you may be sharing data with them, including biometric identifiers, including face prints, including voice prints. Is that correct?
No, Senator. In the privacy policy, it says that if we are to collect biometric information, which we do not collect biometric data to identify Americans, we would provide consent and opportunity for consent first.
But you also say we may share all of the information we collect with a parent, subsidiary, or other affiliate of our corporate group, which means with ByteDance headquartered in Beijing, correct?
Under U.S. access control, sir.
All right, secondly, what about Beijing ByteDance technology, which media reports from earlier this year showed Beijing took a minority stake in through a state-backed internet investment Chinese entity, and on the board of which now sits Wu Shenggang, a CCP official who spent most of his career in Chinese propaganda, including with a stint at the Online Opinion Bureau under the Cyberspace Administration of China, China's internet regulator. Would you consider Beijing ByteDance technology to be a part of TikTok's corporate group with whom TikTok could share all of the information it collects?
Senator, I want to be clear that that entity has no affiliation with TikTok. It's based for domestic licenses of the business in China that is not affiliated or connected to TikTok.
So, are you saying no, or yes or no, as to whether Beijing ByteDance technology is part of your corporate group? As the privacy policy defines it, it says we may share all of the information we collect with a parent, subsidiary, or other affiliate, and presumably that's where it would fall, other affiliate of our corporate group. Is Beijing ByteDance technology a, quote, other affiliate of your corporate group?
Senator, I'm saying that entity deals with domestic businesses within China. It's not connected with TikTok.
You're having a hard time. You're answering questions I'm not asking. Again, it's a yes, no. Is Beijing ByteDance technology a, quote, other affiliate of your corporate group as your own privacy policy defines it?
Senator, I'm just trying to be clear to answer your question. That entity is based in China for the Chinese business that is not affiliated or connected with TikTok.
Okay. So that's twice you haven't answered. Last time you did it on the third time, so let's try it again. Again, it's a yes, no.
The answer is the same, Senator.
Which is?
What I just said, that entity is...
Okay. What you just said did not answer the question, so let me just repeat the question again. Is Beijing ByteDance technology a, quote, other affiliate of our corporate group as your privacy policy defines it? Yes or no?
Senator, as I stated, that entity does not have any relation to the TikTok entity.
So I'll point out it took 3 questions to get you to answer about your parent. You finally answered yes, that you can share all your information with your parent company based in Beijing. I've asked you 3 times about this sister company that is obviously another affiliate. You've refused 3 times. That may be revealing, often as Sherlock Holmes observed about the dogs that do not bark, it may be revealing that the Chinese propaganda minister that is serving on your sister company and who's been in the business of online propaganda, you're refusing to answer whether they fall under your privacy policy. That reveals, I think, a great deal, unfortunately.
Senator, with all due respect, I'm just trying to be accurate here. There's a lot of accusations that are just not true, and I want to make sure that it's
okay,
clear.
I'm going to give you one more chance, and my time is over, but look, in baseball, 3 strikes, you're out. Tonight, the Astros are going to begin winning the World Series. Let's see if a 4th strike, you could actually answer the question. And it's a simple yes, no. Is Beijing ByteDance technology a, quote, other affiliate of our corporate group as your privacy policy defines that term?
Senator, as I pointed out before, my answer is the same.
Yes or no? You didn't answer.
Senator, I appreciate you're trying with gotcha questions. I'm just trying to
It's not a gotcha question. I'm asking about your policy.
I'm just trying to be truthful and accurate about the
Are you
connection
willing
between...
to answer this question, yes or no?
Senator, I answered the question.
You have not answered the question. Is it another affiliate, yes or no?
Senator, I stated a number of times that entity is a domestic entity within China for licenses there, and
apples are red. You stated something that is not the question I asked. Is it another affiliate as defined under your privacy policy, yes or no?
Senator, I answered.
You're here under oath. Are you going to answer the questions?
I answered the question.
Or were you instructed not to answer this question?
No, Senator. I'm just.
So you're just not refusing to answer it because you don't want to?
Senator, it is not affiliated with TikTok. That's your question, and that is the answer.
So your answer, I want to be clear because you're under oath. Your answer is that Beijing ByteDance Technology is not a, quote, other affiliate of our corporate group, as your privacy policy uses that term. This is a legal question with consequence.
Senator, I understand the question. As I pointed out, TikTok is not available in China. That is an entity that is for purposes of a license of a business in China that is not affiliated with TikTok.
So for the record, you're refusing to answer the question.
I believe I answered your question, Senator.
Yes or no? Tell me which one it is. Just give me one word, yes or no.
Senator, I answered the question.
You're not willing to say yes or no?
It was not a yes or no question. I want to be precise.
Okay,
I want to be.
Is this company another affiliate as defined in your privacy policy? That is binary. There's not a maybe. It's yes or no.
Senator, the way I answered, I'm not aware that that is the answer to the question.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer the question. That does not give this committee any confidence that TikTok is doing anything other than participating in Chinese propaganda and espionage on American
children.
Senator,
that's not accurate. And again, I would point you to
if it were not accurate, you would answer the questions, and you have dodged the questions more than any witness I have seen in my 9 years serving in the Senate. That is saying something, because witnesses often try to dodge questions, but you answer non sequiturs and refuse to answer very simple questions. That, in my experience, when a witness does that, it is because they are hiding something.
Senator Moran.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Let me turn to Ms. Stout and ask a question about data privacy. So Senator Blumenthal and many others have been working on a consumer data privacy bill now for the last several years. I have introduced a bill that includes an appropriately scaled right for consumers to correct and to erase data that is collected or processed by covered entities, including social media companies. Ms. Stout, I understand that Snap currently allows users the right to correct or delete their user data. Would you please explain Snap's decision to proactively provide this service?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. And I just want to say we applaud the committee and your leadership on this issue, and we fully support a federal comprehensive privacy bill and look forward to continuing to work with you and your staff on that. To address your question, yes, Senator, Snap has been designed with a very privacy-centric focus from the very outset. We don't collect a lot of data. We believe in data minimization, short data retention periods. And to the effect that you made, as you pointed out, we don't store content forever, and we believe in giving users transparency and control, which includes giving them the ability to delete their data if they wish, or the ability to download their data. We have a tool within the app. Users are able to download their data, which gives them essentially portability of any kind of information that they may have agreed to share or post or put on their Snapchat account.
And other platforms who may not take the same position that Snap has, tell me what it is that you give up in your ability to earn revenue. What is it that you lose by doing that, if anything?
So, Senator, we make trade-offs every day that sometimes disadvantage our bottom line. And there are no rules or regulations that require companies like Snap to have short retention periods. That is why federal privacy legislation is so critical, or why we choose to voluntarily have a data minimization practice. So oftentimes that means that advertisers find other platforms perhaps more enticing because Those platforms keep a history of anything that's ever been searched or ever been shared or location data that's ever been provided. And that is not the case on Snapchat. So that's a trade-off, Senator, that we make because we believe in being more private and more
Because
safe.
if you did it otherwise, what would you gain by doing so?
We just believe we have a moral responsibility to limit the data that we collect on people. And
You're answering it fine, but I'm curious to know, are you giving up, can you generate money? What do you generate by keeping that data and some other way using it?
yes, I think we limit ourselves in our ability to optimize for those advertisements and make more money. And we are a company that has not yet turned a profit. We've invested every dollar back into our company, and we're here for the long game. And our real ultimate desire is to make a platform that is safe for our community.
Thank you. And Mr. Beckerman, what responsibility do platforms have to prevent harmful social media trends from spreading? And how can TikTok improve its algorithm to better comply to TikTok's own terms of service that prohibit, quote, content that promotes or enables criminal activity?
Thank you, Senator. We do have a responsibility to moderate our platform along with our community guidelines and do that in a transparent way.
Where does that responsibility come from?
Just comes from doing the right thing. You know, for us, we want to be a trusted platform. We want to be a platform where people have a joyful experience and like coming to the app, and that's what we're seeing. And that starts with our community guidelines. Certain content, like you mentioned, illegal activities, misinformation, other categories that you wouldn't allow on the platform, we work really hard. I think our content moderation teams and our safety teams are often the unsung heroes of the companies that are working every day 24/7 to ensure that community guidelines are met and the platforms stay positive, joyful.
The nature of my second question, the add-on question, was leading because it suggests that you're not complying with your own terms of service that prohibit content that promotes or enables criminal activity. And my question was, how can you improve your algorithm to better accomplish that? Maybe you want to discount the premise of the question.
No, Senator. I mean, it's an important area where we always want to get to 100%. We release regular transparency reports, and 94% of our removals of violative content are done proactively. Much of it is done within 24 hours or before there's any views. We always want to strive to get 100%, and that's something that we fight and work on every single day.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member Blackburn. I think the series of hearings that this subcommittee is having are hugely important to the nature of our country and to its future. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Moran. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Miller, I would like to come to you. You talk about moderation as a combination of machine learning and human review, and it seems that YouTube has no problem pulling down videos that question abortion, global warming, vaccine mandates, but child abuse videos remain on your site. So I am interested to know more about the specific inputs that you use in these reviews. Who establishes these inputs, and who oversees them to make sure that you get them right?
Senator, thank you for your question. So we heavily invest in making sure that all of our users, but particularly kids on the platform, have a safe experience. And the way that we do this is with a number of levers. For example, we have content policies as it relates to child safety on the platform, so not putting minors into risky situations in videos on the platform.
Okay,
we have
then
policies.
let me jump in and ask you then, if you're saying you don't want to put children into risky videos. There is a world of self-harm content on your site, and a few searches come up with videos such as, and I'm quoting from searches that we've done, songs to slit your wrist by, vertical slit wrist, how to slit your wrist, and painless ways to commit suicide. Now, that last video, Painless Ways, was age-gated, and but do the self-harm and suicide videos violate YouTube's content guidelines if you're saying you have these guidelines?
Senator, I would certainly welcome following up with you on that video
Yes.
you may be referencing, because we absolutely prohibit content regarding
Ms.
suicide
Miller,
or self-harm.
I have to tell you, we have pulled these down in my office. Our team has worked on this because I think it's imperative that we take the steps that are necessary to prevent children and teens from seeing this content. And I just can't imagine that you all are continuing to allow children to figure out how to do this on your site, how to carry out self-harm. So yes, why don't you follow up with me for more detail, and I would like that response in writing. And I also talked to a film producer friend this morning, and the film trailer for I'm Not Ashamed, which was based on the story of Rachel Scott. She was the first victim of the Columbine attacks. And the film focused on her faith and how it helped in her life. So why would you remove this film trailer and block its distributor from being on your site? And you did this for 11 months. You did not put the trailer back up until Hollywood Reporter called and said, why have you done this? You got an answer on that one?
Senator, I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with that specific removal.
Then let's review this.
Yep.
Because and we can submit the documentation. I had it sent back over to me. Ms. Stout, I want to come to you. We had an issue in Memphis with a 48-year-old man who was on your site. He raped a 16-year-old Memphis teen. And he claimed to be a music producer. He lured her into this relationship. And one of the news articles recently called Snapchat the app of choice for sexual predators. This is something that is of tremendous concern. And much of it, from what I understand from talking to moms and talking to grandmoms, is they use the Snap Map location service. And I know you're probably going to say only your friends can follow you, but somehow people are getting around that. And these sexual predators who are following young people are using this map to get to their location. So we had this in Memphis with the rape. We have another child that was in the middle part of the state that the predator followed her, and she tried to commit suicide because she knew her family was going to find out. So are you taking steps? Do you want to give me a written answer as to the steps that you all are taking? How are you going to get a handle on this? This is endangering young women.
Senator, I'm more than happy to give you a detailed written answer, and you have written to us in the past, and I appreciate your leadership in following up on this issue. I want to just make crystal clear that the exploitation of minors is absolutely deplorable. It is our highest priority to prevent this type of event from happening on our platform. But with respect to the map, yes, indeed, location appearing on the map is off by default for everyone, not only for minors, but for everyone. So in order to appear to someone on the map and share your location, you must be bi-directional friends with that person. I will say with respect to grooming, this is an area where we spend a tremendous amount of time and resources to try to prevent. Snapchat makes it intentionally difficult for strangers to find people that they don't know. We do not have open profiles. We do not have browsable pictures. We don't have the ability to understand who people's friends are and where they go to school. So, Senator, I'd be more than happy to follow up with you in writing and provide you more details.
Let's do that so we get some more detail. One question for all three of you, and you can answer this in writing if you choose. You've all talked about the research work that you do. Do you get parental consent when you are doing research on children, and can you provide us a copy of the parental consent form? We asked Facebook for this, and they punted the question repeatedly. And Ms. Miller, I think you need to provide the committee clarity. You said that you all had never spoken out against online privacy. I think the chairman and I may question that a little bit. So my question to you, and you can come back to us with a little bit more depth on this. Did you fight it as a part of the Internet Association as they were fighting privacy on your behalf? And just one thing to wrap, Mr. Chairman, going back to Mr. Beckerman, with the confusion there seems to be around the ownership of TikTok, which their parent company is ByteDance, and the CCP does have a seat on the board. They have a financial stake in ByteDance. Their doyen is a affiliated entity, and we know there's a relationship with the Chinese Communist Party through all of this. And then I checked, and I know that TikTok user data is stored in the US and Singapore, and until quite recently, Singapore data services were run by Alibaba, which is another Chinese company. So what we need to have from you, Mr. Beckerman, is some clarity on the chain of ownership of the transmission and the sharing processes that are around U.S. consumer data, especially the data and information of our children. And with that, I will yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn. We're going to go to Senator Sullivan. We're going to finish the first round. Senator Sullivan, Senator Lummis. I'm going to go vote. I should be back by the time that Senator Lummis finishes. And in the meantime, Senator Blackburn will preside. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Beckerman, I know there's been a lot of questions, which I certainly have concerns about sharing data with the Chinese Communist Party, given the ownership or at least board influence. Senator Blackburn was just talking about that. I know Senator Cruz raised the issues. I want to raise a related issue. It's what I refer to as Kowtow capitalism. Kowtow capitalism. And I think that you guys are Exhibit A of Kowtow capitalism. What is Kowtow capitalism? It's American executives of American companies censoring Americans' First Amendment rights in America so as not to offend the Chinese Communist Party and or to gain access to the Chinese market. So we see it on Wall Street. We see it in the movie studios. We see it with the NBA. So let me ask a couple questions related to that. Could a TikTok user could put up a video that criticizes the chairman of this committee, the ranking member, any senator, President Biden, former President Trump, couldn't they? Is that, I mean, not like some horrible violent suggestion or anything, but just a criticism of a elected official.
Yes, Senator.
Is that common?
Is it, actually, TikTok really isn't the place for politics. We don't allow political ads, and so political content is not typically what people come to.
You don't ever have like funny...
It wouldn't be a violation, yeah, and it wouldn't be a violation of our community guidelines as long as it's not mis or disinformation or something hateful, then that would be allowed.
Good, that's good, that's free speech.
Yep.
I would hope you would answer that way. Could a TikTok user put up a video criticizing Xi Jinping? I know he's sensitive, for example, of being compared to Winnie the Pooh. Could a TikTok user put up videos that kind of make fun of him, maybe with references to Winnie the Pooh? I don't know why he doesn't like Winnie the Pooh, but for some reason you can't put Winnie the Pooh up anywhere in China. Can a TikTok user do that?
Yes, Senator.
Really?
Senator, yeah, our community guidelines are done for the United States market by our team in California, and our moderators are done here, and that wouldn't be a violation of our community guidelines.
Okay, so what about in 2019, you admitted to censoring videos mentioning Tibetan independence. Can a TikTok user mention Tibetan independence?
Yes, Senator.
So what happened in 2019 when you guys admitted to censoring a video related to that?
I'm not familiar with that incident, but I can assure you that that would not be a violation of our community guidelines and would be allowed on our platform.
Okay, what about, I think there was a TikTok public policy director in 2020 admitted that TikTok had previously censored content that was critical of the CCP in regard to forced labor with regard to Uyghur Muslims. Is that true?
That's incorrect. I mean, that would not be a violation of our community guidelines. That content would be permitted.
Okay, so you're saying that your videos have never been censored by the Chinese Communist Party on any matter? These are, I'm just reading from this, maybe these are all wrong.
No, I can assure you that our content moderation teams are led by Americans. Our moderation guidelines are public and transparent, and content that's critical of any government, frankly, as long as it meets our community guidelines, not mis and disinformation or hateful speech or something like that would be allowed. And I would encourage you to search for a number of the examples that you mentioned today on TikTok, and I'm sure you could find.
So the Tibetan independence and the Uyghur Muslim forced labor issues were not censored? I have wrong information on that.
They're not currently censored.
Were they previously censored by anyone at TikTok? I thought, I'm reading here 2019, 2020, you admitted, somebody in TikTok admitted doing that. So that didn't happen?
I'm not aware of that. I can say that's not a violation of our guidelines now, and that's not how we moderate content.
Okay. Well, listen, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chairman, and the ranking member, I do think this issue of Kowtow capitalism, where American companies are censoring Americans, we're seeing it all the time, is an issue that this committee should be looking at, because the Chinese Communist Party, of course, can crush freedom of speech in their own country, but they shouldn't be able to crush it in this country. And Mr. Beckerman, I'm glad that you're denying any of this. I look forward to seeing videos somewhere, somehow on TikTok that are critical of the Chinese Communist Party. Not really holding my breath, but maybe it's true. Maybe ByteDance and the CCP board members are fine with videos criticizing President Xi Jinping and other members of the Communist Party. So you're saying that's totally fine and completely acceptable policy for TikTok users?
Yes, Senator, and just to be perfectly clear, there's not involvement from the Chinese Communist Party in moderation of TikTok, and it's all done by Americans from within the United States.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, and I will let you, we are going to continue looking at these issues of the Chinese Communist Party's influence into U.S. companies and into technology and the silencing and censoring of free speech of U.S. citizens online.
Great.
So
It's a really
thank you for the
important
line
issue. I
of
appreciate
question.
that.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is. Senator Lummis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'm going to start directly with questions, and if I have any time left, I'd like to read a statement into the record. But I'll start with a question for Ms. Miller. YouTube has implemented several features, such as autoplay, that have been proven to make the platform difficult to stop using. What mechanisms has YouTube employed to ensure that children specifically have tools to counteract these design decisions? And do you believe those controls are sufficient?
Senator, thank you for your question. Autoplay is default off on YouTube Kids, as well as in supervised experiences on YouTube Main. So we have set those to default off. We do allow, if the default is changed to allow for autoplay, for example, if a family is in a car and they would like to have the parents have decided they want autoplay to continue, but we have set it to default off.
And do you believe that's sufficient?
I think it's one of a number of tools that are important to make sure that kids have a healthy and safe experience on the platform. Another is that we do not deliver targeted advertising on YouTube Kids. Another is that we age gate content to make sure that minors do not see age-inappropriate material. So it's only with a number of tools and protocols in place do we think that we are meeting the bar we've set for ourselves, that parents expect of us, experts in the field such as child development advise us on to make sure, again, that kids are having a safe experience on the platform.
Thank you. Mr. Beckerman, after my staff reviewed your privacy policy, I want to list some of the items that TikTok will automatically collect from one of its users. That person's location, the device model of your phone, their browsing history outside and inside of TikTok, content of all messages sent on TikTok, their IP address, their biometric identifying information, and information from their phones, such as keystroke patterns and other apps. Do you believe this sort of mass data collection is necessary to deliver a high-quality experience to your users?
Senator, thank you for that question. Some of those items that you listed off are things that we're not currently collecting, and we state in the privacy policy that if we were to, we would notify users and get their consent.
And which of those that I named have that condition?
Yeah, as it relates to biometric, I didn't write down every single thing. I'd be happy to go through it with you and your team on that.
Perfect. We will follow up with you. My question is, regardless of which ones require consent of those I mentioned, why should any member of this committee feel comfortable with the vast amounts of data your company is collecting on our children, especially since TikTok has a relationship to the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, first off, as it relates to data, TikTok actually collects less in many categories than many of our peers. And some of these things, as you mentioned, keystroke, that's not collecting actually what people are typing. That's actually an anti-fraud, anti-spam measure that measures the cadence of typing, because a bot, for example, would behave very differently than a human. And so it's not actually collecting what people are typing. It's an anti-fraud measure. Which
of your competitors or other companies that you're aware of collect more information?
I probably would point to Facebook and Instagram, for example.
Well, I'll ask the same questions of them. Thank you. This for all our witnesses. Are your platforms specifically designed to keep users engaged as long as possible? You want to start, Mr. Beckerman?
Senator, we want to make sure that people are having an entertaining experience, like TV or movies. TikTok is meant to be entertaining, but we do think we have a responsibility along with parents to make sure that it's being used in a responsible way. We have take-a-break videos, we have time management tools, and family pairing as another tool where parents can help limit the time that their teenagers are spending on the app.
But is the length of engagement a metric that your company uses in order to define success?
There's multiple definitions of success, Senator. It's not just based on how much time somebody's spending on the app.
But is that one of them? Is length of engagement one of the metrics?
I think overall engagement is more important than the amount of time that's being spent.
But is it one of the metrics?
It's a metric that I think many platforms check on how much time people are spending on the app.
Thank you. Ms. Stout, same question. Are your platforms designed to keep users engaged as long as possible?
So, Senator, when you open up Snapchat, you don't open up Snapchat to a feed of other people's content designed to keep you consuming more and more content. You open up Snapchat to a blank camera, which is a blank canvas. It's a place where users come to talk to their friends in videos and in pictures.
But is it a metric that the company incorporates into your definitions of success?
I believe we see success as if the platform is facilitating real live conversations and connections with friends. Snapchat is a place where friends come to talk to each other.
But is it a metric? My question is, do you measure success in any way, shape, or form by how long people stay on your site? Is that one of multiple driving measures of success?
I think the way I can answer that question is it is one of many metrics.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Miller, same question. Are your platforms designed to keep users engaged as long as possible?
Senator, our platforms are designed to allow users to search and discover all types of content. It is intended for them to have an enjoyable experience.
I get it, but I'm asking, is this one of the metrics by which you define success?
Senator, we have a number of digital well-being tools designed
But is this one of the
into-
metrics? Is it one of them? I mean, there could be numerous metrics, but is this one of them?
Yeah, to the specific question that you're asking, we do look at, for example, if a video was watched through its entirety. That helps us determine whether or not that was a quality video relative to the search that the user had. So we do look at those types of data points to inform us as it relates to the experience that the user has had on the platform.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, do I have time to enter an opening statement? Thank you, Madam Chairman. This generation of children will grow up under a level of surveillance well beyond any previous one. And although the recent Wall Street Journal reports focused on the problematic harms of Facebook, we know that the problem is endemic among our youth and bigger than Facebook alone. Children are impressionable. They are easily manipulated by targeting advertising to them, and they are readily influenced by the highly sophisticated algorithms that often serve age-inappropriate content to its youth users. These invisible algorithms continuously nudge our children in different directions, which can impact their development without their knowledge and without their parents' knowledge. These algorithms on these platforms were designed with adults in mind, not children. Only a tiny fraction of children understand the harm that can come from sharing sensitive information, pictures, or opinions that become part of their digital permanent record. But what is most alarming is that none of them can fully understand how the content fed to them by algorithms will shape their worldview during these formative years. So more must be done to promote responsible social media use. We must educate parents on how to teach their children to avoid the pitfalls of using these platforms. And more importantly, we must hold these platforms accountable for the effects that their design decisions have on our children. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to add that opening statement to the record, and thank you for your indulgence. I yield back.
Thank you, and thank you for your leadership on these issues and your very insightful questions. We do have to protect kids in our country. You just put your finger on it. So let me ask this, just following up on Senator Lummis and Senator Blumenthal, everyone on the panel here today. These kids are constantly posting content, and their data is being tracked, stored, and monetized. But we know that young users lack the cognitive ability to grasp that their posts are going to live online forever. To each of our witnesses, do you agree that Congress should give children and teens, but more importantly, their parents, their ability, the right to erase their online data? Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator.
Ms. Stout.
Yes, we do, Senator, but I would say that content on Snapchat does not appear permanently.
And again, I appreciate that. And to you, Ms. Miller.
Yes, Senator, and users have the ability to delete their information as well as having auto-delete tools.
So they should have the right to delete it. Do you agree with that, Ms. Miller?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, great. Today, apps collect troves of information about kids that have nothing to do with the app service. For example, one gaming app that allows children to race cartoon cars with animal drivers has reportedly amassed huge amounts of kids' data unrelated to the app's game, including location and browsing history. Why do apps gobble up as much information as they can about kids? Well, it's to make money. Congress, in my opinion, has to step in and prevent this harmful collection of data. Ms. Miller, do you agree that platforms should stop data collection that has nothing to do with fulfilling the app's service?
Senator, we do limit the data that we collect, and this is particularly true, for example, on the YouTube Kids app. We limit the data collection to only rely on what is necessary to make sure that the platform runs.
So do you agree that that should become a law, that all platforms have to do the same thing?
Senator, I don't want to speak to whether or not it should become a law and or the details of any proposed legislation, but at YouTube, we've not waited for a law to make sure that we have these protections.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's time to just make up your mind, you know, yes or no on legislation. We need to move. Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator, we do need legislation. I think we're overdue on very strong national privacy laws.
Great. Ms. Stout.
Yes, Senator, we absolutely collect less data, and it sounds as though collection of data that is irrelevant to the performance of the app does not appear to be within scope.
Okay. Today, popular influencers peddle products online while they flaunt their lavish lifestyles to young users. Influencer marketing like videos of online child celebrities opening new toys, getting millions of views, but they're inherently manipulative to young kids who often cannot tell that they're really paid advertisements, that their heroes are pushing, that the hero is getting a monetary kickback from. My bill with Senator Blumenthal, the Kids Act, would ban this type of promotion of influencer marketing to kids. To each of the witnesses, do you agree that Congress should pass legislation to stop apps from pushing influencer marketing to children in our country? Yes or no? Ms. Miller.
Senator, again, we've actually moved in this direction, whereby we have a set of quality principles regarding the type of content that's made available on the YouTube Kids app, and in so doing, we make sure that we're not providing content that, for example, would have a significant prevalence of that type of material, and we also limit the types of ads that can be delivered on the app. I apologize, but I don't know the details.
Should we make it illegal so that people out there who might be trying to influence children know that there's an enforceable penalty that they would pay?
I absolutely think it's worth a discussion. I would need to stare at the details of such a bill.
Again, it's been around for a long time. Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator, we already limit the kinds of advertisements that can be served to teens, but we do agree that there should be additional transparency and additional privacy laws passed.
Ms. Stout.
Senator, I would agree that I think for young people, there should be additional protections placed. So yes, we would be happy to look at that.
And by the way, we ban it on television because we know that we can't have the hero just holding the product on Saturday morning and just saying, hey, kids, tell your parents to buy this right now. We ban it there. We have to ban it online. So thank you. And finally, push alerts. Studies show that 70% of teenagers report checking social media multiple times a day. Excessive use of social media has been linked to depression, anxiety, and feelings of isolation. The last thing apps should be doing is using methods like push notifications, automated messages that nudge users to open an app to make young users spend even more time online. To each of the witnesses, do you agree that Congress should pass, again, the law that Senator Blumenthal and I are trying to move, which would ban push alerts for children? Ms. Miller.
I agree that additional protection should be in place regarding things such as push alerts for children.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator, we already limit push notifications.
Should we ban push notifications, Mr. Beckerman?
I think that'd be appropriate, but we've already done that proactively for some push notifications.
Okay, Ms. Stout.
Yes, Senator, Snapchat does not utilize push notifications or nudges, as the UK age-appropriate design code pointed out, but we would very much be in agreement with your legislation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Markey. I understand Senator Klobuchar has a few more questions, and while we're waiting for her, I have a few too. So appreciate your patience. Let me begin by acknowledging, and I think you would acknowledge as well, the reason that you made many of the changes that you have is the UK's child safety law, the age-appropriate design code. I think we need an American version of the British child safety law. And I want to ask about some of its provisions. Will you commit to supporting a child safety law that obligates companies to act in the best interests of children? It establishes, in effect, a duty of care that could be legally enforceable. Ms. Stout.
Senator, we were very privileged to be able to work with the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK in their design of the age-appropriate design code. We, of course, comply with the code as it's come into force this year. And as I mentioned to Senator Markey, we're looking actively at that code to see how we could apply it outside of just the UK market and apply it to many of our other markets. So with respect to a child safety law that obligates companies to think about the protection and the safety of children, that's something that SNAP has already done without regulation, but of course would be happy to work with the committee.
But the point is, and we would love to be in a world where we could rely on voluntary action by platforms like yourselves, but in effect, you've sacrificed that claim to voluntary action or reliance on your voluntary action. Whether it's Facebook or your companies in various ways, I think you have shown that we can't trust big tech to police itself. And so when you say we already do it, well, you may decide to do it, but there's no legal obligation that you do it, and there's no way to hold you accountable under current law. That's what we need to do. That's why I'm asking you about a law. I'm hoping that your answer is a yes, that you would support it as a duty of care that is a matter of law. You're nodding, and I hope that's a yes.
Yes, Senator, and that was very much a part of my testimony in my opening statement, which, because the time it takes regulation to be actually implemented, we don't believe that we should have to wait for that regulation. We're going to take the voluntary steps to best protect.
Support it.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Mr. Beckerman.
Yes, Senator, we've already voluntarily implemented much of the age-appropriate design code here in the United States. But I do agree with you that companies need to do more. And I was struck by your comments and your opening statement about a race to the top. And that is very much the approach that we're trying to take at TikTok, to do more, go above and beyond, and really be a place where it's seen that we're putting wellness of teens and safety of teens in particular ahead of other motives.
So let me see if I can answer the question as I would if I were in your seat. Yes, we strongly and enthusiastically support that kind of child safety law. We're already doing more than we would need to do under the law.
Yes, Senator, but, and additionally, I do think as it relates to age verification, it's something that should be included in measures like that and included in updates to COPPA, which are long overdue.
Ms. Miller?
Senator, I actually respectfully disagree that we only wait until we have legal obligations to put systems, practices, and protocols in place For example, we rolled out YouTube Kids in 2015 to make sure that as kids were trying to be on the main platform, that we created a space that was particularly for them and their safety. We've rolled out a number of
I'm going to interrupt you, Ms. Miller, because I think you misinterpret me. I'm not suggesting
sorry.
that you wait. On the contrary, I'm suggesting that you do it now. I think Mr. Beckerman and Ms. Stout perfectly well understood my question. Both of them would support that law. Would you, yes or no?
I would support looking at any details as it relates to additional legal protections for kids in the U.S. As you may know, the Age-Appropriate Design Code went into effect in the UK just over a month ago, so it's still early days. But we had already rolled out a number of the protections required in the UK. We had rolled them out globally.
Is that a yes or no?
Yes, I would be happy to work with you and your staff
Would you
on
support this
a U.S.
legislation?
version.
Would you support a version of the UK child safety law?
I would need to stare at the details of any specific bill, but I certainly support expansions of child safety protections.
I'm going to yield to Senator Klobuchar. I understand she's now ready to ask her question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for a lot going on here today. Thank you for taking me remotely for the second round. One of the things that I've tried to do in all of these hearings that we've had, including in the Judiciary Antitrust Subcommittee that I chair, is taking the veil off this idea that this is just web, everyone has fun, that's what it is, and it's just a cool thing. Some of that's true, but it's also a huge profit-making venture. And when you look at it that way, as the most successful and biggest companies the world has ever known in the big tech platforms in terms of money, then you have to start looking at it, wait a minute, why haven't we done anything about privacy law? Or why haven't we done anything on Senator Markey's children's law? Why haven't we put in place some rules about transparency on algorithms, or mostly, from my perspective, done anything about competition policy, which is a market approach to get alternatives? So I just start with this question, which I've asked many of the platforms, the larger platforms. Ms. Stout, Snap reported that its advertising revenue per user in North America for the second quarter of 2021 was $7.37. How much of Snap's revenue came from users under the age of 18?
Senator, I don't have that information for you, but I'd be happy to take that back.
Okay,
Provide you
very
a
good.
response.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been trying to get that from Facebook. Of course, just to give you a sense, Facebook's revenue per user from their own documents is $51 per user for the US per quarter, just to put it in some perspective. Mr. Beckerman, TikTok is a privately held company, so we don't have public documents on your advertising revenue per user. What is your best estimate of advertising revenue per US user for the last quarter?
Senator, I don't have those numbers, but I'd be happy to go back and check in with the team.
Do you think you can provide us that?
Again, we're not a public company, but I'll go back and see what we can find for you.
Okay, and again, I'm trying to figure out the percentage from users under the age of 18 for us to get some perspective on how much of this is how much of the business and the future growth of the business is in kids. Ms. Miller, YouTube reported that its advertising revenue overall in the second quarter of 2021 was $7 billion. How much of YouTube's revenue came from users under the age of 18?
Senator, I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not sure if we look at data internally that way. So I would also be happy to follow up with you. But I would like to note that as a company, we've long shared our revenue with our creators. And so over the last 3 years alone, we have paid out more than $30 billion to our creators.
Okay. My work with the antitrust subcommittee takes me in related paths, and I recently introduced the bipartisan legislation, the American Innovation and Choice Online Act, which with Senator Grassley, and there's several people, including Senator Blumenthal, who are co-sponsors of that legislation. And it's focused on a gnarly problem, which is that you have platforms that are self-preferencing their own stuff at the top. They are taking, in some cases, data that they uniquely have on other products and then making knockoff products and then underpricing the competitors. Ms. Miller, Roku says YouTube has made unfair demands in negotiations for carrying the YouTube TV app on Roku, including demanding Roku give preference to YouTube over other content providers in its search results, which is exactly what this legislation gets to, and give YouTube access to non-public data from Roku's users. Did YouTube make these demands for non-public data and preferencing in search results in negotiations with Roku?
Senator, I am not involved in the negotiations with Roku. I know we've been having discussions with them for several months, and we're trying to come to a resolution that's good for users as well as both companies, but I'm not involved in the negotiations.
Okay, I'll put this on the record for others in the company, because also I'd like to know more generally if YouTube has ever demanded non-public data or preferencing in search results in negotiations with other providers. It just gives you a sense of the a dominant platform by far in the area of search, being able to use that power over people who are simply trying to be on that platform. So I think that gets really to the core of what we're trying to do. I also just had a follow-up on your YouTube banning all vaccine misinformation, which I commended you for at the time. How much content have you removed related to this policy change since you banned all anti-vaccine misinformation? And have you seen a change in the viewership rate?
Senator, I feel bad. I think this is a question I would absolutely love to answer with this detailed but I know that we've removed so much video as it relates to COVID misinfo.
We'll put it in writing and we'll get the answer that way. Thank you. My last question, Ms. Stout, Mr. Beckerman, I just mentioned this bill that Senator Grassley and I have introduced with 10 other co-sponsors aimed at ensuring that dominant digital platforms don't use their market power to thwart competition. Do you support some of the competition reforms in the bill, and have you faced any challenges when it comes to competing with the largest digital platforms? So that'll be my last question.
Senator, we're aware of the bill that you introduced with Senator Grassley, and as a non-dominant platform, very much appreciate your legislation and the work that you're doing in this space. And yes, as a smaller platform, it is an incredibly competitive arena for us. We compete every day with companies that collect more information on users and store that information to monetize. So any efforts that this body, and especially the legislation that you've undertaken to create an equal playing field so that it is indeed a competitive atmosphere for platforms like Snapchat, we would very much welcome.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Beckerman?
Yeah, likewise, we appreciate your efforts and the work that you've done to promote and spur competition. That's something that I think we all benefit from. As it relates to specific challenges that we faced, I'd be happy to meet with you and your team to discuss in detail some of those issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Senator, I found the answer, if you don't mind.
Okay,
So on COVID misinfo, we've removed over 1 million videos since we started rolling out COVID misinfo, and over 130,000 videos as it relates to COVID vaccine misinfo. So it's an area we've put a lot of resources behind to make sure our platform isn't promoting or allowing this type of content. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Senator Blumenthal and Blackburn.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. I seem to be the last person standing or sitting between you and the end, but I do have some questions. Ms. Stout and Mr. Beckerman, over 10 million teens use your app. These are extremely impressionable young people, and they are a highly lucrative market. And you make tens, probably hundreds of millions from them. There's a term, I'm sure you've heard it, called Snapchat dysmorphia to describe the depression, mental health, and other issues associated with your apps. Snapchat dysmorphia. Kids use the filters that are offered and create destructive, harmful expectations. The filter does. And you study the impact of these filters on teen mental health, I assume. Do you study the impact of these filters before you put them in front of kids? Ms. Stout.
Yes, Senator, the technology that you're referring to is what we call lenses. And these lenses are augmented reality filters that we allow users who choose to use them to apply them over top of selfies. And for those that are familiar, they are the, opportunity to put on a dog face or...
I've seen them, but they also change one's appearance potentially to make one thinner, different colors, different skin tones.
So these filters, Senator, are created both by Snapchat and our creator community. There are over 5 million of these augmented reality filters, and a very, very small percentage of those filters are what you would call beautification filters. Most of them are silly, fun, entertaining filters that people use to lower the barrier of conversation. Because again, when you're using Snapchat, you're not posting anything permanently for likes or comments. You're using those filters in a private way to exchange a text or to exchange a video message with a friend. So it really kind of creates this fun, authentic ability to communicate with your friends in a fun way, and those filters are one of the many ways in which friends love to communicate with each other.
Do you study the impact on kids before you offer them? Have you studied them?
So we do a considerable amount of research on our products. And in fact, I think it was one of the competitive pieces of research that was revealed as part of your earlier hearing showed that filters or lenses on Snapchat are intended to be fun and silly. It's not about body dysmorphia.
We all know as parents, something intended to be fun and silly can easily become something that is dangerous and depressing. And that is the simple fact about these filters. Not all of them, maybe not the majority of them, but some of them. And I'd like you to provide the research that you've done. I've asked for other research, but I'm gathering from what you've said that you don't do the research before you provide them.
No, Senator, that's not what I'm saying. And in fact, particularly with respect to this question, I'm not able to answer the kind of research we've done simply because I'm not aware. But I will go back and look and try to get you an answer to answer your question.
For 8 years, Snapchat had a speed filter. It allowed users to add their speed to videos, as you know. The result was that it encouraged teens to race their cars at reckless speeds. There were several fatal and catastrophic crashes associated with teens using the speed filter. It took, I think, 8 years. And warnings from safety advocates and multiple deaths for Snapchat to finally remove that dangerous speed filter. It was silly. It was maybe fun for some people. It was catastrophic for others. And I want to raise what happened to Carson Bride. His mother, Kristen, originally from Darien, told me about how Carson was relentlessly bullied through anonymous apps on Snapchat after trying desperately to stop the abuse and after unanswered pleas for help. He took his own life. Silly, fun. How can parents protect kids from the relentless bullying that follows kids home from school, as Ms. Haugen said so movingly? No longer stops at the schoolhouse door, now 24/7, comes into their homes just before they go to sleep. What are you doing to stop bullying on Snapchat?
Senator, this is a incredibly moving issue for me as a parent as well. Bullying is unfortunately something we're seeing more and more happening to our kids. And indeed, this is not just on the online community. They face it at school, they bring it at home. We have zero tolerance on Snapchat for bullying or harassment of any kind. And as a platform that reaches so many young people, we see this as a responsibility to get in front of this issue and do everything we can to stop it. So again, because Snapchat is designed differently, you don't have the multiple abuse vectors for bullying in a public sort of way on Snapchat. You don't have public permanent posts where people can like or comment, thereby introducing additional opportunities for public bullying or public shaming. That's not to say that bullying doesn't happen both online and offline. And so we have in-app reporting tools where users can anonymously and quickly report bullying or any other harmful activity. And I will say our trust and safety teams that work around the clock actually move to remove this content on average in less than 2 hours. Usually it's far more quickly than that. But I want to assure you, Senator, and thank you for raising the bullying issue. In addition to prevention, in addition to combating this practice, we do a lot to prevent it. And we think that there ought to be more opportunities to raise awareness on the effects of bullying and the effects that people's words have on other people, and we will continue to make that commitment.
Mr. Beckerman, we've heard from TikTok that it's a safe environment. At the same time, we see challenges, the blackout challenge, just to take one example, where in effect, teens and children have actually died emulating and recording themselves following blackout and choking challenges, including a 9-year-old in Tennessee who saw one on TikTok. Despite apparent efforts to discourage certain dangerous trends, this content is still being posted and viewed widely by kids online and followed and emulated, whether it is destruction of school property or other kinds of challenges. A mother who lost her child in the choking challenge shared questions with me, and they're questions that deserve answers from you and from others who are here today. And I'm just going to ask her a question. How can parents be confident that TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube will not continue to host and push dangerous and deadly challenges to our kids?
Thank you, Senator. As it relates to this specific challenge, and particularly things that can be dangerous or deadly for teens, it's sad and tragic. I mean, I remember myself when I was in grade school, had a classmate that we lost from something very similar, and so I know it's something that touches many of our lives, and it's awful. As it relates to TikTok, this is not content that we've been able to find on our platform. It's not content that we would allow on our platform. Independent fact checkers have looked, but it's important that we all remain vigilant to ensure that things that are dangerous or even deadly, particularly for teenagers, don't find their way on platforms. And it's important that we all have conversations with our teenagers to make sure they stay safe offline and make sure they stay safe online. And it's a responsibility that we take. And again, I just think it's important that we distinguish between things that there is actual content on platforms encouraging things, and others where actually the content does not exist on the platform.
But this content existed on your platform.
Senator, we have not been able to find any evidence of a blackout challenge on TikTok at all. And again, it would violate our guidelines, but it's something that we proactively search both with AI and human moderators, but we have found absolutely no evidence of it. And it's something that we have conversations with parents and others all the time around things that could be dangerous. But it's important that we have conversations with our teens about this.
And other challenges, you're saying none of them?
As a
on your platform?
like specific, so anything that is illegal or dangerous violates our guidelines. Our teams have been very aggressive and acted very quickly as things pop up on the platform. As our transparency reports show, over 94% of content that violates our guidelines is removed automatically. But dangerous challenges have no place on TikTok.
I understand that you react by taking them down, but they existed for the time that they were there. And I guess my question is, what can you do to prevent those challenges from being there in the first place?
Well, we're often able actually to be proactive in blocking things from coming on. When they're found, we divert searches, we block content, we remove content. But unfortunately, something that we've seen recently are press reports about alleged challenges that when fact checkers like Snopes and other independent organizations look into it, they find out that these never existed on TikTok in the first place, and in fact were hoaxes that originated on other platforms. And so I think it's important of all of us, particularly parents and teachers and those that care about our young people, that we look at the facts and look to see what content actually exists rather than spreading rumors about alleged challenges.
Well, I just have to tell you, Mr. Beckerman, we found pass-out videos. We found them. So I have a lot of trouble crediting your response on that score. Let me ask you about another instance. A parent in Connecticut wrote to me about how their 13-year-old daughter was inundated on TikTok with videos about suicide, self-injury, and eating disorders. I've heard similar stories from parents across the country. So we checked. We did our own research. My staff made a TikTok account I was describing earlier and spent hours scrolling through its endless feed of videos. As a teen would, TikTok began by showing us videos of dance trends. Within a week, TikTok started pushing videos promoting suicidal ideation and self-harm. We didn't seek out this content. We can't show these videos in this room because they were so disturbing and explicit. And finally, another TikTok account we created as a 13-year-old, that's a 13-year-old, was flooded with nothing but sexually obscene videos. How do you explain to parents why TikTok is inundating their kids with these kinds of videos of suicide, self-injury, and eating disorders? This is stuff occurring in the real world.
Yes, Senator. I can't speak to what the examples were that from your staff, but I can assure you that's not the normal experience that teens or people that use TikTok would get. Those kinds of content violate our guidelines and are removed, but we would be happy to sit down with you and your staff and go through what that example was.
Would you support restrictions on product features that are intended to foster addictive use of apps? In other words, bar features that lead to addictive use of apps?
Yes, Senator, we've already done a number of that proactively in the form of take-a-break videos, in terms of time management features, in terms of not having direct messages, for example, for under 16, and our family pairing tools. It's important that when we look at these issues, that we have conversations and foster these conversations with our teenagers. And that's one of the reasons we built out family pairing, to make it easy for parents. I know it can be daunting for parents when you have teenagers to have all these different tools and features to protect them, but we built this in a way where parents from their own app can have additional control of the safety, privacy, and time use for their teenagers.
I have to go vote, and I don't have anyone to preside here for me. May I suggest taking a 5-minute recess? I'll have some final questions if you'd be willing to wait, and then we can close the hearing. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I was told that a couple of my colleagues wanted to come back and have an opportunity to question, but if they're not here within the next 5 minutes, they'll lose that opportunity. Thank you for your patience. I want to give you an opportunity to answer what I think is probably one of the paramount questions on the minds of most parents today. And that is, how are you different from Facebook? I mentioned at the very start of the hearing that you would try to differentiate yourself from Facebook. It's not enough to say we're different, but I want to give you the opportunity to tell parents why they should be less fearful and scared of Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube. Ms. Stout.
Senator, thank you for the opportunity. Again, I think it's very important to understand Snapchat is a very different platform. It was created by our founders to be an antidote to social media. Our founders saw very early on what traditional social media can do to your self-esteem, to your feeling that you have to perform or be perfect for the world at all times. And Snapchat was a decidedly different platform that was private, that was safe, where people could come and actually talk to the friends that they have in real life. You weren't being judged on your perfect posts. Your posts were intended to be ephemeral the way a real life conversation is ephemeral, and it really strengthens relationships. So for parents who may not be sure of Snapchat, I would tell them, get on Snapchat, understand what your kids are doing, and in fact, we're going to make it easier for parents through parental controls to understand how indeed their kids can be safe and private on Snapchat. These parental controls, which we'll be rolling out very soon, will help parents understand who their kids are talking to the most, what their children's privacy or location settings may be, and start a conversation with their parents, because this is a partnership. Parents and children ought to come together and talk about how to stay safe.
Let me interrupt by saying, you know, everything you've said is fine, but it is aspirational, or it will appear so to some parents. In other words, just like Facebook says, oh, we bring communities together. Nothing to see here that's bad. I understand your goals, and for a lot of people it may be so, but I'm giving you the opportunity to tell us how you protect kids in a way that Facebook doesn't.
Yes, so it is not only aspirational, but it's something that we live and we practice every day. So in order to be friends with people on Snapchat, you have to be bi-directional friends. So there's no following, there's no not being invited into the conversations. These are two-way mutual friendships where people are able to speak to one another. Senator, an average 14-year-old on Snapchat only has 30 friends, and we don't try to push them to create more friends or make more connections with strangers. We want Snapchatters to be connected to the people they're connected to in real life.
Mr. Beckerman?
Thank you, Senator. So let me answer that in three ways. First, we put people first, and particularly as it relates to teens, we put their well-being first. As I outlined, and there's just so many examples of things that we've done, we've made difficult policy and difficult product choices that put the well-being of teens first. And so that's everything from, we don't allow direct messages for under 16. Under 16, their accounts are private. The way we've built out family controls. And so with our actions, look, trust, everybody can say trust us, but unless you're doing actions and putting those actions in place as we already have and we're constantly improving, we're not talking today about things that aspirationally we want to do. We're talking about things that we already have done and are continuing to build on. So that's one. Two, the approach of the company. Being open and humble is really part of our company culture, and that means that we're open to getting feedback from outside experts and policymakers and parents about ways we can improve, and we're humble to say we're not always going to get it right, and we want to take that feedback and implement it in a way that really can earn trust, particularly as it relates to protecting teenagers. And the third is I would encourage parents to have conversations with your teenagers. Ask them how they use TikTok. How do they feel after using TikTok? And from what we're hearing and what we're seeing in the community is that TikTok is a joyful experience. It's inclusive. It makes teens feel better when there are difficult times during the pandemic or in the school day. And so just have those conversations with your teens, but also take the opportunity to maybe film a TikTok video with your teenager to facilitate that conversation. And recognize that TikTok is not a passive experience. It's not just about watching videos. It's about the creativity and making and doing fun videos on the app. And that's something that we have seen parents come together with their teenagers on that. And so I think those three would answer your question, Senator.
Ms. Miller?
Prioritize profits over
I think
safety.
we are, maybe you can start again. I think we missed the beginning of what you said.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Senator. Thank you for asking this question. For YouTube, our mission is to give everyone a voice and show them the world. And as such, when users come to YouTube, they experience search and discovery of finding all types of content. But as a company, we do not prioritize profits over safety. We invest heavily in making sure that our platforms are safe for our users, and we do not wait to act. We put systems and practices and protocols in place that over time we have relied on when we need to adapt to the world around us. For example, we rolled out YouTube Kids in 2015 when we realized that those under 13 were trying to get on the YouTube main platform. We created a safe space for them on YouTube Kids. In addition, we are a transparent company. We rolled out our first quarterly transparency report in 2018. We continue to update that on a quarterly basis where we share additional metrics. We rolled out the violative view rate statistic earlier this year. We believe that being a company where responsibility is our #1 priority, where we are constantly trying to balance the freedom of expression with being responsible, is something that is ingrained in our DNA, and we're very proud of the work that we've done, but we know there's always more for us to do.
I'm going to leave to the parents of America and the world whether or not they find your answers sufficient to distinguish you from Facebook. I know for sure, with certainty, that we need more than just, with all due respect, the kind of answers that you have given to persuade me that we can rely on voluntary action by any of the companies in big tech. And so I think you're going to hear a continuing drumbeat. And I hope that you'll be part of the effort for reform. I hope there will be release and disclosure. I want to read, in that connection, a text that just came to my staff, and I haven't had the opportunity really to review it myself, but I'm going to read it. It comes from one of the families whose story I shared anonymously. Quote, "I've watched the entire hearing. I just heard the senator refer to our experience. Mr. Beckerman is lying that her experience is atypical. That is not true. My daughter's TikTok feed was inundated with suicide ideation videos, self-harm videos, and anorexia videos because she was feeling depressed and searched for videos on this topic. Then every time she opened the app, there was more. She could have been feeling better, but these videos brought her down again and inspired her to spend hours making her own similar videos. I also just wanted you to know that she is an honors student, athlete, president of her student council, and all-around great kid. Mr. Beckerman's testimony makes me so angry. I say that with all due respect, but I just want folks watching to know that we're not taking at face value what you've told us. And I certainly want to give you an opportunity to respond, but you and big tech should know these messages are the real life experiences that people are relating to us. As we go to town meetings, as we talk to them on the phone or by email, that's what we're hearing. That's why you're here. And I think there are a lot of questions still to be answered here and a lot of contentions to be disputed and a lot of work to be done in real action, real reform, and I hope Congress will do it. So I would give every one of you an opportunity to make a closing statement if you wish or not, and then we'll conclude the hearing. Ms. Stout?
Chairman Blumenthal, thank you again for the opportunity to appear today, and I would absolutely agree with you that voluntary measures are not adequate in and of themselves, and we've never suggested that voluntary regulation is the way forward. We want to partner with this committee and with Congress on what those regulations should look like, and we, as I wrote in my testimony, believe that Congress's role in pushing forward regulation in this space is absolutely necessary. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about how Snapchat has been prioritizing and will continue to prioritize the safety and well-being of young people on our platform. We do see this as our highest priority order, and we will continue to press forward. Thank you.
Mr. Beckerman?
Thank you, Senator. This is one of the most important topics for all of us, particularly as parents, as tech companies, and as Congress to address. We all have a responsibility to protect our teenagers. None of us can do it alone. It can't just be on the parents. It can't just be on us, and it certainly can't just be on Congress. But we have to come together and solve issues that exist both on and offline for our teenagers. It's a responsibility that we at TikTok take very seriously and have taken tangible actions and steps to do and will continue to do so. And as we focus today on legislation, we support stronger privacy rules to be put in place. We've done many of that proactively on our own. We support Congress acting on age-appropriate design, age-appropriate content. It's things that we've done proactively. We'd like to see Congress act on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
Senator, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in today's hearing. I'll just close by saying what I said at the top in my opening statement, which is that there is no more important issue than the safety of kids online. And I am personally committed, our executives are committed to working with you and other stakeholders to make sure that the experience that kids have online is one that is healthy and enjoyable. I very much appreciate the concerns that you and your colleagues have shared with us. We will continue to work to improve and earn the trust of parents and kids and all the other stakeholders working together in this important space. Thank you very much.
Well, I thank each of you for being here today. I hope you have grasped the sense of urgency and impatience that many of us feel. The time for platitudes and bromides is over. We've seen the lobbyists at work. We've seen the millions of dollars arrayed against us, and I think we're determined this time to overcome them. And I hope that we'll look back on this hearing as a turning point, along with others that we're going to continue to hold in this subcommittee. So I thank you for being here today, and this hearing is adjourned.